When we talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first image that usually comes to mind is four brothers scarfing down pizza and shouting "Cowabunga." It's pure nostalgia, the kind that defined a lot of people's childhoods on TV. But if we're being honest, there's one specific version that truly elevated the franchise and delivered something far more mature than we were used to. I'm talking about the 2003 series. Forget the purely comedic, harmless tone of the 80s. This time, the story draws directly from the darker roots of the original comics. We're not just dealing with goofy monster of the week villains, but with an ongoing narrative that blends mysticism, intergalactic wars, and a Shredder who was genuinely intimidating. This animated series wasn't afraid to tackle heavier themes or show real consequences for its heroes, creating what many fans consider the definitive adaptation. If you think you already know everything about our favorite quartet, think again, because this journey goes far beyond fighting over pizza slices in the sewers of New York City. Things kick off with a bang at the dojo, where the turtles are struggling through a grueling training session under Master Splinter. But practice turns into a fight for survival when the walls start to shake and a swarm of small robots, Mousers, invade the lair like a droid army out of Star Wars. A full-blown brawl ensues. Metal flies everywhere as our heroes manage to dismantle the junk heaps. However, the structural damage is too much. The ceiling collapses, separating the turtles from Master Splinter in a classic horror movie Split. Using their shell cells, customized brick phones, they coordinate a rendezvous point. With the sewers blocked, they're forced to the surface. Naturally, the first thing they run into is trouble. The Purple Dragon's gang is hijacking an armored truck. Raphael, always the hothead, ends up locked inside the truck with the thugs and the loot. While he's hauled away, his brothers must parkour across the New York City skyline to track the vehicle. Total Assassin's Creed vibes. When the truck stops, the team reunites to bust out their cranky brother. The fight against the Purple Dragons is a cakewalk. They're basically level 1 NPCs, but the victory is short-lived. Out of nowhere, an army of mysterious ninjas appears, and the difficulty spikes to hard. The turtles hold their own, but the enemy respawn is infinite. The solution? A Grand Theft Auto move. They hijack the armored truck and peel out. They ditch the vehicle in a tunnel and finally reunite with Master Splinter. The sensei has found an abandoned chamber that's perfect for a new secret base. Like a Batcave, just a lot more human. While they set up shop, we cut to the villain. Hun, the leader of the defeated gang, reports to his mysterious master. The atmosphere is heavy. The boss doesn't take excuses. He rises from his throne and, let's just say Hun's employment contract is terminated permanently off-screen. The villain lets out a classic Saturday morning cartoon maniacal laugh as the camera reveals the symbol of the Foot Clan. It's moving day at the new hideout. Donatello is busy welding while Michelangelo, priorities in check, just wants to hook up the TV and the video games. The problem? There's no power for the turtle lair. Splinter, ever the wise sage, shuts down the fun to keep them focused on the essentials. Meanwhile, Leonardo and Raphael head back to their destroyed old home to salvage what's left. Raph is itching for payback against whoever sent the robots, while Leo is feeling the weight of losing their home. They return piloting the sewer slider, a new ride Donatello rigged up, basically the Batmobile of the sewers. Back at base, the news comes on. Baxter Stockman, a scientist with a major Elon Musk complex, is unveiling his latest invention to solve the city's rat problem. The same Mouser robots that trashed the turtles' home. Raphael wants to go up there and crack some skulls, but Splinter forbids it, reminding them how close they came to disaster last time. Enter April O'Neil, Stockman's lead assistant. She starts smelling a rat when she notices half the robots have vanished from the system. Stockman brushes her off. He's got a meeting with his primary investor, Oroku Saki. Saki is livid because the field test failed. He gives Stockman a Darth Vader-style ultimatum. Either it works perfectly, or he's finished. April, going full investigative protagonist, eavesdrops at the door. She breaks into his office, finds a secret passage, and descends into a massive underground lab. There are enough robots here to conquer the city, not just hunt rats. Stockman catches her red-handed, delivers a cliché villain monologue, and sets the Mousers on her. April flees into the sewers, running for her life. By sheer coincidence, Donatello and Mikey were tracking a reprogrammed Mouser when the turtles crossed paths with April. It's the Big Meat Cute, 4 mutant ninja turtles saving a human from killer robots. They scrap the machines with ease. April faints from the shock, a very relatable reaction, and Michelangelo, never missing a beat, asks the million-dollar question, "Hey, can I keep her?" The situation is pure comedy. The turtles have brought an unconscious April back to the lair. When she wakes up, she thinks it's all a nightmare, but then she sees the four Green brothers and loses it again. Seeing a giant talking rat, Splinter, sends her back into a dead faint. It's a lot to process. Up on the surface, Stockman's Mousers are cleaning out a bank vault. They're taking everything: cash, jewels, bonds. The police arrive too late to find anything but a hole in the floor. Back underground, April finally accepts that her life is now a sci-fi movie. Splinter shares their origin story, the one we all know, the mutagenic ooze and the transformation. The group sees the bank robbery on the news and connects the dots. Stockman isn't hunting rats, he's getting rich. April spills everything she knows, and they decide to infiltrate Stocktronics to shut down the Mouser server. The heist is very Mission Impossible. April helps bypass security, and they reach the control room. But it wouldn't be easy. Stockman was waiting for them. After an intense fight, they corner the mad scientist. Panicking at the sight of giant ninja turtles, Stockman triggers a scorch earth protocol and calls every Mouser in the building to the room. Chaos erupts. While the turtles hold off waves of enemies, April tries to hack the system. Just when it looks like they're going to be overrun, she triggers the robot's self-destruct. The lab starts blowing up, and our heroes have to haul it to avoid becoming turtle kebabs, leaving the villain behind. Stockman manages to escape the blast, only to run straight into Hun, Oroku Saki's massive bodyguard. April is officially welcomed into the turtle family, ending the day on a high note. For Stockman, however, the day ends poorly. Saki is furious over the failure and demands results. The only thing the scientist can offer is a blurry thermal image of the turtles. Saki stares at it, confused by these monsters, and shreds the image with his metal gauntlet. He has a new target in his sights. Tensions are high in the lair. Raphael and Michelangelo are sparring, but Raph, who has a fuse shorter than a cartoon bomb, loses it. After a taunt from Mikey, Raph grabs a lead pipe and nearly turns his brother into paste. Leonardo steps in and tells his hot-headed brother to go topside and cool off. Meanwhile, in a dingy apartment, a guy is watching the crime news on TV. He's fed up, so he decides to take the law into his own hands. Using hockey sticks, golf clubs, and baseball bats, he dons a goalie mask and heads out to hunt criminals. This is Casey Jones. Raph, still brooding on the streets, spots Casey laying the smackdown on some purple dragons. At first, Raph just watches with some metaphorical popcorn, but Casey starts crossing the line into excessive violence. The shell-backed hero intervenes, and naturally, they end up fighting each other. It's too much testosterone for one alleyway.
Oh man, they're getting away! Stay out of my business, freak! You can run, purple dragons, but you can't hide!
Casey escapes on his bike, calling for a round 2 in Central Park. Back at the lair, the turtles discover a secret elevator leading to an abandoned warehouse on the surface. Plot convenience? Maybe, but it allows them to pull a Pimp My Ride on the armored van they swiped in the first episode, turning it into the battle shell, a high-tech urban tank. It's showdown time at Central Park. Raph arrives and knocks Casey off his bike. Just as they're about to kill each other, the purple dragons show up in force to crash the party. Nothing unites rivals like a common enemy. The rest of the turtles arrive in their tuned-up van, and the brawl is on. After some heavily choreographed mayhem, Casey realizes these green monsters are actually good guys, relatively speaking, and becomes the team's newest ally. In a high-tech lab, a scientist named Dr. Richards is playing God with nanotechnology. She's created microscopic robots capable of deconstructing and rebuilding objects. The catch? They have the mind of a child. A scientist named Dr. Richards is playing God with nanotechnology. Bad move. The robots, dubbed nanobots, escape their container in a very dangerous Toy Story parody. On the street, the nanobots find Harry, a petty thief who just robbed a family man. During an alleyway scuffle, the robots fuse with a pile of junk toys to create a bizarre mechanical body. The creature looks at the thief and starts calling him Daddy, instead of running away screaming. Harry sees dollar signs and decides to adopt the monster to commit more crimes. Harry and his robotic son start hitting local shops, including one near April's antique store. Concerned about the crime wave, she calls the turtles for a tactical sleepover. Right on cue, Harry hits April's shop. A chaotic fight breaks out, and Donatello manages to slice off a piece of the robot with a blowtorch. Donatello analyzes the sample and finds the weak point. Extreme heat fries the nanobot's circuits. He builds a tracker, and the team locates the criminal duo at a junkyard. They roll up in the battle shell for a battle straight out of the Iron Giant. The problem is, the nanobot starts absorbing absorbing all the surrounding scrap, becoming massive and nearly indestructible. The turtles have to act fast before they're turned into scrap metal. They use a giant electromagnetic crane to pin the monster. Harry, desperate to save his kid, cuts the crane's power. The plan backfires. Without the magnet holding it, the robot falls directly into an industrial incinerator. In a scene reminiscent of Terminator 2, the nanobot melts away, leaving Harry traumatized for having led an innocent child down the wrong path. A boring day in the sewers leads the turtles to some extreme sports until the power goes out. It's not just a blown fuse, the whole neighborhood is dark. Splinter suggests they investigate, and the four brothers head to the surface to play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater under the cover of night. Passing by the Museum of Art, they spot Foot Clan ninjas breaking in. Inside, the fight is over an ancient sword. The turtles try to stop the theft, but the ninjas use the sword, which emits a bizarre shockwave, to blast the heroes back and escape. The only thing they manage to recover is a Foot Clan insignia. When they show it to Master Splinter, he goes pale. He recognizes the symbol immediately but plays the mysterious Master card, forbidding them from investigating further while he retreats to meditate. Classic Kung Fu Master move. Across town, in his Palace of Evil, Oroku Saki receives the sword. He's the only one who can handle the artifact without protective gear, feeling its power vibrate. He sends the weapon to his scientists. Shortly after, another blackout hits. Donatello tracks the source to the docks, ignoring Splinter's orders, because what the sensei doesn't know won't hurt him. They head out. Donatello debuts some new toys, night vision goggles and a motorized glider. Soaring over the river, he sees the ninjas using the sword as a battery for a sonic cannon that is literally parting the river waters, technological Moses style. They're looking for something at the bottom. Chaos ensues. While Donatello falls into the water and nearly becomes fish food, the other three brothers lay into the ninjas on the pier. The villains find what they were looking for and take off in a chopper, leaving the cannon behind. The machine overloads and starts leveling buildings with shockwaves.
I think we got bigger problems.
In a tense moment, Donatello manages to snag the sword with a discarded foot glove before the whole thing blows. Back home, they stash the sword, agreeing it's too dangerous, but the damage is done. In the villain's lair, Oroku Saki is furious about losing the sword, but his scientists brought back what was in the river, a strange mechanical body. Even worse, they show him thermal footage of the turtles. Now Saki knows exactly who the monsters sabotaging him are, and he vows to end them once and for all. At Evil HQ, Oroku Saki is having a classic toxic boss moment. He's screaming at Hun and Baxter Stockman for their incompetence, as the turtles continue to ruin his plans. The Shredder demands they stop bickering and work together to eliminate the mutants. Meanwhile, in the sewers, Splinter is trying to teach a Zen lesson on the art of invisibility, but the vibe is ruined when Casey Jones crashes the party uninvited. He's all worked up, showing them photos of graffiti threatening the turtles and itching for a fight. Raphael, being Raphael, takes the bait and heads to the surface with the vigilante, skipping training. Topside, Raph and Casey find some purple dragons tagging walls and move in. The fight looks easy, video game tutorial easy, until the difficulty spikes. Reinforcements arrive, and they aren't common thugs. They're high-tech foot tech ninjas with cloaking devices. These guys essentially turned on Predator mode. Unable to see their enemies, Raph and Casey take a beating. Casey is left behind with the dragons, but Raph is kidnapped and hauled to a bizarre lab. When he wakes up, he's staring at Hun and Stockman, who is dying to dissect the turtle like a frog in biology class. Casey manages to escape and bolts to the sewers to warn the others. Donatello, the team genius, solves the problem by creating thermal goggles, turtle vision. Meanwhile, Raph wakes up on a luxury yacht in the middle of the river. He escapes by diving into the water, thinking he got away, but it was all a ruse. Stockman let him go to track him back to the lair. Raph meets the team in the tunnels, thinking he's safe, but the invisible ninjas strike.
Hey, did I I mentioned that these guys were really strong?
However, the tables have turned. With Donatello's goggles, the turtles see the heat signatures and stop the villains. Hun and Stockman fail again and have to face the boss's wrath. The episode ends on a mystery. Spies from a group called the Guardians watch from the shadows, concluding the turtles might not be enemies after all. The episode starts with some bad life choices. A group of purple dragons is robbing a store, and among them is Angel, a girl trying to prove her worth to the gang. The turtles and Casey Jones arrive to stop them, and Casey recognizes the girl from his old neighborhood. He tries to give her the big brother lecture, but Angel isn't having it. She knocks him down and bails. Casey finds out her initiation is happening at a Purple Dragon underground fight club. He sneaks in and sees Angel is set to fight in the ring. Unable to help himself, Casey jumps in to save the girl, breaking the first rule of Fight Club. The villains aren't fans. Hun captures the vigilante and locks him in a cage. Angel manages to escape and goes for help at the only place she can think of, the address Casey gave her. She hits the turtle lair, and after the initial shock of seeing giant talking reptiles, she explains the situation. The quartet dons their human disguises, trench coats and hats that, by some miracle, fool New Yorkers, and head to the rescue in the battle shell. At the club, Leo and Raph enter the ring disguised as recruits to create a distraction while Donatello, Mikey, and Angel try to free Casey. The fight in the ring turns into an insane battle royale when Raph's disguise comes off and everyone realizes they're giant turtles. Hun enters the fray and knocks the entire cage onto our heroes. It looks like the end, but Casey Jones wakes up and hits a home run on Hun's head with his baseball bat. With the villain dazed, Donatello uses the remote to call the armored truck, which smashes through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, taxi!
They escape safely, and Angel is returned home, having learned that street gangs aren't exactly a great career path. Hard times on the streets of NYC. Homeless people are mysteriously vanishing, swallowed up by a garbage truck that seems to have a mind of its own. The turtles are investigating using their noir detective trench coats when they hear urban legends about a villain called the Garbage Man. To lure the criminal out, they use the oldest trick in the book. Michelangelo serves as bait. The plan works too well. The truck appears, tries to grab Mikey, and when the battle shell tries to give chase, the villain's vehicle dives into the river and drives along the bottom. Yes, a submarine garbage truck. Physics took a day off. They follow the trail to an island that is basically a massive landfill in the middle of the water. There, they discover a slave labor operation where kidnapped homeless people are forced to recycle trash. The villain, the Garbage Man, is a morbidly obese man who moves in a floating chair covered in mechanical arms, looking like a rejected boss from a video game franchise. He delivers a megalomaniacal speech about recycling people that society discarded. The turtles have no patience for villainous philosophy and start freeing the prisoners, who revolt against the guards. The final showdown is against the Garbage Man and his mechanical claws. Donatello sabotages the chair's circuits. The Garbage Man falls into the water, and when the turtles try to rescue him, because heroes are soft like that, they only find an empty chair at the bottom. The guy vanished. The homeless community, led by a friend of the turtles named the Professor, decides to stay on the island because, ironically, it has more resources than the city. Raph warns them that evil might return, but for now, the day is saved. Back at the base, a classic nerd debate breaks out. What's the best weapon? Leonardo, full of himself, insists the katana is the king of weapons. Master Splinter decides to teach him some humility, and, using only a wooden cane, schools Leo. The lesson is simple. It's not the tool, it's the master.
In the hands of a true ninjutsu master, anything can be a deadly weapon. Remember, a weapon is...
Frustrated, Leo goes to the rooftops to clear his head and receives a Ninja Express delivery, an arrow with an invitation. The sender? Oroku Saki. He invites Leo to a meeting at a warehouse. The Turtles' leader decides to go alone, playing the Batman-esque lone hero, but his brothers, who aren't idiots, follow him closely. At the warehouse, Leo walks into an ambush of dozens of foot ninjas and takes them all down. Then Saki appears, clapping and talking smooth. He spins a tale about leading the ninjas against a great evil and invites the turtles to join him, very much like Darth Vader, inviting Luke to the dark side. To seal the deal, he gives Leo an ancient katana. What they don't know is that the Guardians are spying on everything and have their orders. If the turtles align with Saki, it's game over for them. Back at the lair, the mood turns sour. The brothers confront Leo. Raph loses his cool, and the two nearly come to blows. Leo finally talks to Splinter, and here comes the bombshell. Splinter reveals he already knew who the Foot Clan was. He shares his origin as the pet rat of Master Yoshi, and tells how Saki, now revealed as the Shredder, and his thug Hun murdered Yoshi. In short, Saki is the great evil. With the truth out, the turtles return to the warehouse to give their answer. Leo returns the sword with a very loud no. All hell breaks loose, and they mop the floor with the ninjas. Pun shows up looking for a rematch, but Leo kicks the giant through a skylight. Just when they think it's over, Saki emerges wearing the full Shredder armor, turning a ninja scrap into a true boss battle. If they aren't with him, they will be crushed. The situation on the rooftop is critical. The Shredder and his army have the turtles surrounded, and it's an all-out war. In the chaos, Leonardo tries to land a hit, misses, and strikes an electrical transformer. The result? A massive fire that causes the roof to cave in, dropping everyone into the burning building. Meanwhile, Splinter emerges from his meditation, realizes the house is empty, and rushes to save his sons, but not before grabbing his car keys, or rather, the remote for the battle shell. Inside the ruins of the warehouse, the turtles are separated and being hunted by the Foot Clan. Donatello finds Mikey, who has a mangled ankle and is limping worse than a zombie from The Walking Dead. They hide in an apartment bathroom but are spotted by a kid. Raphael hides in a dumpster, pulling an Oscar the Grouch, and is eventually saved by Splinter. The sensei shows he's still got it, rescuing his sons and calling in the armored van via remote control. While searching for his brothers, Leo runs into a mysterious ninja, a guardian, who vanishes faster than a birthday party magician before Leo can even ask for an autograph. The family reunites in the battle shell, and Splinter takes tactical command. The order is clear: stop chasing the Shredder and let him come to the trap. They park and climb another building. The Shredder takes the bait. The turtles handle the minions, but the armored boss is too strong for them. This is where wisdom beats brute force. Splinter manipulates the fight, tricking the Shredder into slicing the supports of a massive water tower. The structure collapses, and the villain is swept off the roof by a personal tsunami, crushed by the debris below. The turtles think they've won and head home, but the camera lingers on the rubble. The Shredder's gauntleted hand twitches, proving that a franchise villain never dies in the first movie. After the intense showdowns with the Shredder, Michelangelo is in a completely different headspace. He spots a building on fire and wants to help, but Leo tells him to stand down. Suddenly, Silver Sentry, the local Superman-esque hero, arrives and saves the day. Mikey is starstruck and becomes obsessed with the idea of the turtles becoming superheroes, but his brothers just laugh in his face. Back at the lair, while the others are training hard, Mikey is busy sketching costumes. Master Splinter tries to explain that a ninja operates from the shadows, not in colorful spandex saving kittens, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Mikey turns to April for help and cobbles together a DIY costume out of junk, assuming the identity of the Turtle Titan. Mikey's first patrol is an absolute train wreck. He tries to help, but only ends up embarrassing himself or looking guilty. Strangely, the victims seem to be in a trance until robotic insects crawl out of them. During one of these mishaps, Silver Sentry saves Mikey from falling into the river.
Stupid.
A classic cape caught in the door blunder, Edna Mode warned us. The hero tells Mikey to quit the vigilante life, but recognizes the robot bug as the work of his arch nemesis, Dr. Malignus. Sentry flies off to face the villain and sends Mikey home, but the stubborn turtle follows on foot. By the time he reaches the lair, the tables have turned. Dr. Malignus has mind-controlled Silver Sentry. Now Mikey has to fight a guy with flight and super strength. The hero costume only gets in the way, and he takes a brutal beating. In a moment of desperation, Mikey realizes that playing hero isn't working. He rips off the ridiculous costume and fights like a ninja again, using Master Splinter's techniques. With his agility, he manages to remove the control bug from Sentry. The hero regains consciousness, and together, they send Dr. Malignus to the slammer. In the end, Mikey accepts that the life of a masked vigilante, on top of being a mutant turtle, isn't for him. Back in the sewers, the brothers see Silver Sentry thanking the Turtle Titan on TV. Mikey just gives a smug little smile as he asks to get back to training. Things at the lair are back to their usual rhythm. Donatello is playing mad scientist with some strange crystals they found, while Michelangelo is crashed on the couch watching monster movies. The problem is that Mikey, always meddling with things he shouldn't, decides to smash the crystals together just for kicks. The result is a light show and a high-pitched frequency that travels deep underground, waking something that definitely should have stayed asleep. Think a Balrog in the Mines of Moria. The noise wakes the whole house, and soon the perimeter alarm trips. The team jumps into the sewer slider to investigate, but all they find are melted tunnels, as if someone sprayed alien acid on the walls. Donatello, playing CSI, collects samples, and discovers the cause is chemical, not natural. Splinter, with his protective fatherly instinct, tells them to get to the bottom of it. Everyone is hyped for an underground adventure except Mikey, who's traumatized by his movies, and feels like things are about to go south. They descend into an abandoned subway line, the kind that looks like a 1900s horror movie set. The place is falling apart, and it doesn't take long for them to realize they're being followed. But Creature lets out a roar that collapses the ceiling, forcing the turtles into an Indiana Jones-style chase sequence. After nearly being flattened, they set up camp at the bottom of a ravine, but their rest is short-lived. Raph, who was on watch, wakes everyone up because a shadowy beast is hurling giant boulders at them. It's a steep climb with rocks raining down on their backs. They use Raphael's grappling hook to cross a chasm at the last second, leaving the boulders to fall into the abyss. On the other side, they find a high-security door smashed open. Inside is an abandoned genetic lab filled with Foot Clan technology. Donatello discovers that the Shredder was playing God, trying to create monsters for excavation, but the test subjects rebelled and trashed the place. Mikey, being Mikey, accidentally triggers a defense system, a crushing force field, straight out of the Star Wars trash compactor. Raph saves the day by jamming a Psy into the generator. The group decides to bail before they become paste, but 3 mutant monsters block the exit, ready for round 2. All hell breaks loose in the abandoned lab, and the turtles are getting wrecked by the trio of beefed-up monsters. Their leader warns that they won't be captured. Leo tries to talk them down, but diplomacy fails miserably. The tide only turns when a massive machine nearly crushes the monster leader, and Leonardo, in a Superman moment, dives in to save the creature. The beast is so confused by this act of kindness that the fighting stops. The leader introduces himself as Quarry and brings in his partners, Razorfist and Stonebiter, to talk. Their story is tragic. They were humans kidnapped by the Shredder and turned into freaks for tunnel digging. When the villain realized they were no longer useful, he dumped them down here. Quarry explains they were only investigating the noise from the crystals, because that frequency attracts something much worse from the depths. On cue, more monsters emerge, but these are 28 Days Later style zombie mutants, attacking everything in sight. They try to retreat to the lab and activate the force field, but the system is fried after Raph trashed the generator. Nice going, Raph. Donatello improvises a fix using one of the crystals he brought, creating a temporary barrier that fries the invading monsters. The problem? The battery won't last forever. Leo suggests going even deeper to find larger crystals to power the mutant sanctuary. The new alliance between turtles and monsters descends into the underworld with a journey to the center of the earth vibe. The path is full of hazards, death-defying leaps, and strange rivers. Most bizarrely, the walls are covered in the same symbols the turtles saw in their new lair. One of the feral monsters attacks, and the group tries to force the entrance in a panic. Donatello, the brains of the operation, sees a slot in the wall, plugs a crystal in, and the door slides open. But as soon as he steps through, strange lights envelop him and, poof! He vanishes into thin air, leaving the rest of the team staring at an empty hallway as the feral monsters close in. With no time to mourn Donatello's disappearance, the brawl continues. In the middle of the chaos, orbs of light begin abducting everyone, taking Razorfist and one of the enemies.
Razor Fist! Leo, what the shell?
The remaining group sprints through the tunnel and stumbles upon a lost underground city, an Atlantis of sorts, filled with glowing crystals and a massive tower. They find a suspended tram to cross a magma-filled abyss. Total Temple of Doom vibes. Leo thinks it's too risky, but with a horde of monsters on their heels, it's the only way. Mid-crossing, the monsters jump onto the roof and start tearing the tram apart. A mysterious entity appears and vaporizes the creatures with light, but the extra weight snaps the cables. The tram plunges, and Quarry ends up buried under rubble, having to use her acid spit to dissolve the rocks and free herself. The search for the missing members continues, and the group thins out with every step, like a teen slasher movie. Leo spots a shadow, goes to check it out, and vanishes. Raph tries to chase the figure, and is also taken by a blue light. Only Mikey and Quarry are left. The last mutant panics, jumps off the flying scooter they found, and is also captured. Mikey, now alone, never a good sign, decides to head for the central tower. Inside, he finds everyone, friends and foes alike, frozen in suspended animation inside crystals, looking like mid-condition action figures. When he tries to free them, the entity appears. Mikey charges in, but he's stopped by Leo himself. His brother explains that the entity isn't evil. He's the last survivor of an ancient race that lived there, and now wants to cure the mutants, restoring their human forms. The catch, they have to stay there forever to repopulate the city. The turtles decline the offer to become the Adam and Eves of the Underworld. The entity won't take no for an answer and attacks using a powerful amulet. When all seems lost, Mikey manages to disarm the lonely villain and traps him in a crystal using his own light sphere Pokeball. The mutants are freed and revert to human form, and it's revealed that Quarry is actually a woman, but there's a catch. They only remain human if they stay near the underground crystals. In other words, they can't return to the surface. The turtles say their goodbyes and head home, but the bad news doesn't end there. Splinter warns them that the Foot Clan has found their address. Homeless once again, they rush to April's place, turning her apartment into a mutant ninja hostel. While the gang discusses strategy in April's living room, it feels like a sitcom episode. If the roommates were mutants who didn't know how to be decent guests. Raph goes to take a shower and realizes the hot water is out. Everyone's worst winter nightmare. It falls on the tech genius, Donatello, to head down to the basement to fix the heater. Downstairs, the vibe shifts from home maintenance to sci-fi in 2 seconds. Donatello encounters a winged creature and discovers a secret tenant, Kirby. This guy is an artist who would make Harold and the purple crayon look like an amateur. He has a magical crystal attached to his pencil that brings everything he draws to life. The problem is the drawings fade fast, except for a dimensional portal glowing in the corner like a neon sign. Curious as a cat, or a scientist turtle, Donatello steps through the portal and ends up in a fantasy world straight out of a tabletop RPG. Kirby follows, and they find a floating city and a bridge where an epic battle is raging. Human warriors are getting pummeled by grotesque monsters. Naturally, Donatello can't stand by and watch an injustice, so he dives into the fray. The situation gets dire as the monsters attack in waves, like a tower defense game. That's when Kirby shines. He pulls out his sketchbook and starts drawing weapons for Donatello. First, a gravity gun that sends the beasts into orbit, then a Pacific Rim-style giant robot to hold the line. The artist is basically a living cheat code. He draws restraints to bind the enemy army and saves the entire city. But the party is short-lived. The portal back to New York is flickering and closing fast. They race back, and Kirby insists Donatello go first. The ninja dives through, but the portal shuts halfway, leaving him stuck between dimensions. In a heroic act, Kirby pushes Donatello back into April's basement. But ends up trapped in the world of his drawings. All that remains is a paper airplane with a sketch of Donatello and a goodbye note. Donatello returns to the apartment physically whole but with a heavy heart, realizing that not every fairy tale has a happy ending. The day has barely started, and Leonardo is already in workaholic mode, heading out to train alone while everyone else is crashed out in April's living room like the end of a slumber party. Splinter gives him the worried dad warning to stay sharp, but Leo, at the peak of his confidence, slips out the window for his morning run. Meanwhile, the routine at April's is pure comedy. Lines for the bathroom, breakfast chaos, and Wrath doing what he does best, complaining. But outside, Leo's morning turns into a survival horror movie. Out of nowhere, he's surrounded by an army of foot ninjas. And to make things more dramatic, a massive storm rolls in, with heavy rain ready to wash away both soul and blood. Leo parkours across the rooftops, but the difficulty spikes. First, the foot soldiers, then the foot tech ninjas with Predator-style cloaking. He's exhausted and taking more hits than a punching bag when he rounds a corner and runs into the boss. Hun, the giant, dismisses his goons to settle things one-on-one. It's a brutal fight, David versus Goliath, but Leo uses the environment to his advantage and collapses a chimney onto the brute. He thinks it's over, catches his breath, and turns to leave, wishful thinking. Suddenly, the Foot Elite Guard appears, ninjas who teleport like Nightcrawler. They surround Leo, and then the realization hits. Everyone bows. Through the lightning, a silhouette emerges. The Shredder, the man who was supposed to be a pancake under a water tower. He's very much alive and leaning into his villain era. Leo tries to fight, but he's running on empty. The Elite Guard toys with him like a game of keep away, tossing him from one side to the other. When Leo attempts one last desperate strike, the Shredder catches his katanas and snaps them like toothpicks. The humiliation is absolute. The villain hurls Leo's body through April's apartment window. He crashes into the living room, broken and battered, terrifying the whole family. With his last bit of strength, he drops the bombshell. He's back, the Shredder. Immediate desperation sets in. Leo is sprawled on the floor like a rag doll, and before Splinter can even process the news, Mikey looks out the window and sees the building is surrounded. There's an army of ninjas on the roof, in the streets, and on the fire escapes. They breach the apartment like a SWAT team, smashing everything in sight. April steps up as a combat medic, trying to stabilize Leo while Wrath, Donatello, and Mikey hold off the waves of enemies in the living room. Realizing that staying put is suicide, they decide to retreat to the ground floor, April's antique shop. It's a chaotic withdrawal, fighting down the stairs and trading blows. In the shop, things get worse, if that's even possible. The Elite Guard is already there, like a welcoming committee from hell. Mikey tries to crack a joke about their ridiculous hats, but gets shut down immediately. Hun smashes through the door, desperate for revenge, cornering April and the injured Leo. The giant is about to do something he'll regret when, suddenly, a motorcycle smashes through the storefront window. It's Casey Jones, arriving in the nick of time, Terminator style but with a hockey stick. He mows down a few ninjas and goes after Hun to protect April. Casey's arrival gives the team a second wind, but they're still outnumbered. The police start arriving outside, and the Shredder, watching from the sidelines, decides it's time to end the show with some fireworks. The villain cuts the gas lines and tosses an incendiary bomb. Splinter realizes the play and orders everyone into the shop's old walk-in freezer. Yes, the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull tactic, but here we pretend it actually works. They lock themselves inside seconds before the entire building turns into a massive fireball. On a nearby rooftop, the mysterious Guardians watch the explosion and report back to the council. We're too late. The turtles are toast. April's shop is reduced to ash, and to the outside world, our heroes just hit game over. The situation is critical. The building is a giant bonfire, and the group is trapped in an industrial fridge with nowhere to go. April has a stroke of genius and remembers the freezer's motor was removed, leaving a hole in the wall. Wrath, in brute force mode, rips out the casing and clears a path to the alley. They drag the unconscious Leo out just as the building blows. A total Michael Bay moment. The problem now is they're homeless, and Leo is in a coma. Casey suggests the classic horror movie escape plan. Head to his grandmother's isolated farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in Northampton, Massachusetts. The trip is made in a freezing moving trailer because the heater is busted. It's basically the turtle version of Little Miss Sunshine, minus the joy and plus hypothermia. Meanwhile, at the foot base, Shredder is skeptical. He's thought he killed the turtles before only to be proven wrong, so he demands hard evidence, DNA or shells. Baxter Stockman, always the opportunist, sees a golden chance. He promises the proof, but only if he gets to play with that alien exoskeleton Saki fished out of the river. At the farm, the mood is heavy. Leo won't wake up. Splinter suggests a form of emotional shock therapy, telling stories of the past to guide his spirit back. Donatello tells a story about when they were kids and Leo saved him from drowning in the sewer over a remote control car. Raph and Mikey share their own sentimental stories, trying to pull their brother back from the white light. In New York, Stockman digs through the rubble of April's shop and finds nothing. Since he doesn't want to become fertilizer at Shredder's hands, he does what any desperate student would do. He fakes his homework. He takes a red cloth with some holes and pretends it's Raph's destroyed mask. Shredder, surprisingly gullible for a crime lord, buys the ruse and hands over the exoskeleton to the scientist. Back in the countryside, after much motivational talk and flashbacks, Leo finally murmurs no fear and opens his eyes.
No fear.
The family breathes a sigh of relief, but the physical and mental scars remain. Meanwhile, Stockman is laughing it up with his new high-tech toy, obviously planning to betray everyone as soon as possible. Life at the farm starts out like a bad reality TV show. April is trying to clean, and Casey walks in with muddy boots like an ogre, getting a major earful. Outside, Mikey runs back from the woods, claiming he was chased by a crazy neighbor. And not just any neighbor, it's Dr. Abigail Finn, a monster hunter with a sensationalist TV show. Think those Discovery Channel hosts looking for Bigfoot. She shows up at Casey's door with cameras in tow, looking for the Green Man. Casey and April try to throw her off the scent, even though she has footage of Mikey in the woods. Meanwhile, in the barn, Leonardo is in a dark place, depressed because he lost, got beaten, and had his swords broken. Raph, tired of seeing his brother mope, takes action. He fires up the old forge and puts Leo to work in a growing, stronger montage as they forge new katanas from scratch. Donatello and Mikey decide to sneak into Dr. Finn's truck to steal the incriminating footage, but the scientist is truly unhinged, and the truck is a trap that starts freezing them with liquid nitrogen. Donatello uses his bow staff to blow the door, and they narrowly escape. To get revenge and scare the woman off, they decide on a Scooby-Doo scheme. They dress up as monsters to haunt Dr. Finn, but she's tough as nails, has flying drones, and nearly captures Casey. The plot twist happens when Mikey finds a real green man in the woods. But relax, it's not a killer alien. It's a peaceful creature that just loves pistachios. The problem is, Dr. Finn captures the creature. The turtles have to save it before it becomes a national TV attraction. They raid the truck, swap the monster for a disguised Casey, and let the magic happen. During the live broadcast, Dr. Finn opens the cage, expecting glory, but finds Casey complaining about his life. Total national humiliation.
No! How can this be? My monster! My reputation! My network television!
Back in the barn, Leo emerges from the shadows with his new swords and restored confidence. The spiritual retreat is over. It's time to go back to New York and settle the score with the Shredder. 3 months have passed. After their retreat at the farm, the team returns to the New York sewers to find the lair dusty but secure. The Shredder has stopped hunting them because, thanks to Stockman's lie, he thinks they're long gone. And as Master Splinter says, the element of surprise is a ninja's best weapon. They launch a Mission Impossible style operation. Donatello and April hack into the Foot HQ systems and pull the blueprints. The plan is bold. Donatello uses a remote to drive the battle shell, their armored truck, straight into the building's lobby as a distraction, while the team infiltrates through the sewers. Leo is carrying the Sword of Tengu, that magical blade that throws shockwaves, just in case. When Hun finds the empty truck, the ruse is up. Shredder realizes instantly he's been played by Stockman and orders a manhunt for the intruders. April unleashes a virus into their security system, cutting off the villain's communication. It's perfect chaos. The turtles fight their way up floor by floor, clearing the area like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. They reach a hangar full of weapons and run into the Foot Tech ninjas. This time, the heroes are ready. Raph uses an enemy vehicle's laser, and Donatello uses electromagnetic shurikens to fry their cloaking devices. When a few remain invisible, they use fire extinguishers to reveal their positions, just like in the sci-fi movies. After mopping the floor with the ninjas, they climb through the ceiling and drop into a bizarre genetics lab filled with vats of strange liquids. The alarm blares, the tanks hiss open, and the episode ends on the ultimate cliffhanger. 3 hideous Shredder clones emerge from the tubes, ready for a fight. Things just got very ugly.
Though they might be his genetic clones.
Might be.
Dealing with 3 hideous Shredder clones in the middle of a lab wasn't in the brochure, but it's what's on the menu today. The Turtles and Master Splinter find out the hard way that these abominations eat steroids for breakfast and are nearly indestructible. As the brawl rages on, Donatello calls April asking for a cheat code to get past this level. She finds a secret elevator, but the activation switch is on the other side of a massive pit in the floor. Donatello triggers the bridge, and now they have to play Tarzan on a cable to get across. Everyone makes it easily, except for Raphael, because Hun decides to spoil the party by firing a missile, and the Claw clone cuts the cable. Raph is left dangling inches from death, while Leo shouts timing instructions. At the last second, the rebel leaps, and Hun's missile slams into the clone, sending the monster into the abyss. The team races for the elevator, but the multi-arm clone smashes the door and jams the mechanism. With no other choice, they climb onto the roof of the cab and scale the cables while Leo severs the supports, sending the elevator, and the monsters on top of it, into a Die Hard-style freefall. Reaching the upper floors, Raph pries the doors open with brute force, and they find themselves in a suspicious hallway. Splinter, in full ninja mode, wall runs to avoid traps. Donatello follows suit. Raph, losing patience, sprints down the floor thinking it's clear, triggering every trap imaginable. But the Zero Awareness Award goes to Michelangelo, who moonwalks through the hallway like Michael Jackson between giant saw blades. He loses his bandana tails, gets a lecture from Leo, and the mood turns serious. They enter a mystical chamber with 5 statues that spring to life. These are the Foot Mystics, controlling wind, earth, fire, water, and metal, like Captain Planet villains, but lethal. Physical attacks are useless. Splinter, seeing they're in trouble, seizes the sword of Tengu and uses the blade's magic to blast the ghosts, but the effort severely burns his hands.
Master Splinter, your hands!
The sword of Tengu is a potent mix of science and sorcery.
Finally, they reach the throne room. Hun and the elite guards surround the heroes, but no one moves. The Shredder steps out of the shadows, gives the classic villain monologue, and the final showdown begins. Splinter, even injured, humbles Hun, but the fight is interrupted by an insane plot twist. Baxter Stockman rises from the floor inside a massive metal sphere. He's in a giant exoskeleton, looking like Iron Man's Hulkbuster. The scientist is tired of being a doormat and announces he's killing everyone. Turtles and Shredder alike. Revenge has arrived with heavy artillery. Baxter Stockman, piloting his massive mech of destruction, opens fire on everything that moves. Now the Turtles, Splinter, and even the Shredder are forced into a temporary alliance because the mad scientist is mopping the floor with everyone. Stockman takes down Hun and Shredder in seconds, leaving the mutants to hold the line. Raph manages to trip the giant robot, sending it crashing into a massive pit. It seems over, but Stockman flies back up on jetpacks, screaming about his own genius. The fight devolves into chaos. Leo severs one of the robot's missile launcher arms, and Shredder slices off a leg. Even as he's being dismantled, Stockman keeps coming back, proving to be more persistent than a telemarketer. Donatello has a brilliant idea. He grabs the severed robot arm and uses it as a bazooka to blast Stockman into the stratosphere, where he finally explodes. With the robot out of the way, Shredder immediately turns on the Turtles. He lunges for Mikey, but Splinter saves his son and ends up being kicked off the roof. In a heart-stopping moment, Leo dives after his master, using his grappling hook to save them both from the freefall. A battered Splinter passes leadership to Leonardo, ordering him back into the fight. Wiping away tears and fueled by rage, Leo scales back to the rooftop and uses the sword of Tengu to blast Shredder into a nearby lake. The villain refuses to quit, calling in aerial reinforcements and ninjas on hover jet skis. However, the Guardians, those mysterious observers, join the fray to assist the Turtles. In the heat of the battle, Shredder seizes the sword of Tengu, becoming incredibly powerful, but the brothers attack in perfect synchronization. Leo and Raph disarm him. Leo claims the mystical sword and the gauntlet required to wield it. The final duel is tense. Leo with the magic sword, Shredder with Leo's katanas. They clash in front of the moon and Shredder's head falls. Yes, Leonardo has decapitated the series' greatest villain. The heroes use the sword and Stockman's robotic arm to short-circuit the entire building, frying the Foot Clan's technology. The place goes up in flames as the police arrive. They rush to find Splinter where they left him, but find only his cane. The rat is gone. With no time to investigate, they escape in a stolen helicopter. Meanwhile, on the burning rooftop, Shredder's headless body stands up, picks up his helmet, and walks away as if nothing happened. Pure nightmare fuel. Following the insane skyscraper battle, the mood in the lair is heavy. Raphael is taking his anger out on a punching bag, frustrated that Master Splinter is still missing. April monitors the news, but there's no sign of a giant rat anywhere. Losing patience, Raph decides to head topside to crack some heads for clues, ignoring Donatello and Mikey's advice. On the rooftops, paranoia sets in. Raph spots a silhouette that looks like Splinter, but it's just a pile of trash. His frustration peaks until he sees suspicious activity in an alley. Mob goons chasing a young boy. Raph drops down to play the hero, scares off the thugs, and saves the kid, named Tyler. But the kid is feisty. After some forced dialogue, Tyler explains the situation. His mom is a reporter who snagged a tape incriminating a mob boss. The mafia kidnapped her, but she managed to slip the tape to her son so he could escape. Raph decides to help, and they head to the warehouse where his mother is being held. The problem? The mob lieutenant, a guy named Weasel, tosses a flashbang that leaves Raphael completely blind. The dynamic shifts. Raph turns into Daredevil, but he needs Tyler to be his eyes. The boy uses the clock system to guide Raph's strikes. Punch at 3 o'clock, kick at 9. They storm the warehouse in an unlikely display of teamwork. The mob boss shows up to fight, and things get hairy when Weasel muffles Tyler's mouth, leaving Raph fighting blind and taking a beating. The boy bites the mobster's hand, breaks free, and shouts the final coordinates for Raph to take down the boss and create a barrier with giant crates. Tyler runs to untie his mother, and they escape. As the crooks try to dig themselves out of the rubble, Raph's vision returns. He takes a moment to mock Weasel, complimenting the guy's hideous tie before tossing him into a trash heap.
See, though looking at you, I'm already kind of missing the blind thing.
In the end, the mother turns the tape over to the police. Tyler looks up to see Raph smiling before vanishing into the shadows, Batman style. One good deed done, but still no lead on Splinter. The atmosphere in the sewers is grimmer than a season finale. April drops the bombshell that she's found no trace of Master Splinter, and that's the breaking point for Raphael. He snaps, shreds the punching bag, and decides he's done waiting. The team splits up to cover more ground, Scooby-Doo style, but with more ninja weapons. Raph heads out on his bike and naturally doesn't find the sensei, but he does find a car thief. He chases the perp through the streets in a real-life Grand Theft Auto sequence, dodging traffic and obstacles. Just as he's about to educate the thug with his fists, his brothers arrive to kill the vibe and remind him of the mission. Raph is livid, but lets the thief go before the cops arrive. Frustrated by the fruitless search, they decide to investigate the Guardians. The plan is simple and genius. Use a shredder dummy to lure one out. It works like a charm. When a Guardian appears to attack the decoy, Mikey steps out of the shadows, laughing in his face. They corner the guy, track his sword, and end up in front of a building labeled TCRI. And then deja vu hits. Those are the same letters from the canister that created the turtles years ago. Now the mission has gone mission impossible. April and Casey Jones step in. April tries the diplomatic route at the front desk, but Casey steals the show. He storms into the lobby with a toaster in hand, acting like the world's most obnoxious customer, channeling pure Karen energy. While he causes a scene and distracts the guards, April slips into the control room and hacks the system. But getting inside isn't easy. After failing with the vents and windows, they find a false entrance hidden by a hologram. The catch? It's a trap. Mikey, being Mikey, sticks his head into the vent and triggers a defense laser. He dodges the shot but slips and falls off the building. Donatello tries to save his brother, but gravity is unforgiving, and now both are in a 9-story freefall. In a move of pure ninja instinct, Donatello uses Mikey's shell as a stepping stone to grab the building wall, while Mikey hooks his nunchuck onto his brother's bow staff. It was a close call, but they survive and resume the climb. Meanwhile, in the lobby, things have soured for Casey. The guards have pulled out stun batons, and our vigilante is struggling to hold his own, even after stealing their weapons. April manages to disable the vent's security system just in time, but she's caught red-handed. Casey arrives to save the day with a shock staff, and the two flee in a flying car they found in the hallway, Blade Runner style, leaving Mr. Mortu and his goons in the dust. The turtles finally breach the interior of the TCRI building, which is a bizarre labyrinth. They split into pairs. Leo and Raph encounter fake hallways and holograms, like a hall of mirrors. Meanwhile, Mikey and Donatello hop into an elevator with two strange humans. They follow them to a decontamination chamber and witness the most disturbing sight of the day. The men literally step out of their human bodies. They are small, brain-like aliens with tentacles, piloting robotic exosuits. Total Men in Black vibes. The alarm blares and chaos ensues. The four brothers reunite while fleeing the aliens, known as Utrons, who are flying small crafts and firing lasers everywhere.
Follow me!
Mid-escape, they stumble into a lab and bingo! Master Splinter is there, floating in a stasis tank, looking like Luke Skywalker in the Bacta tank. Donatello tries to free the sensei, but the aliens surround the group. A firefight breaks out, and a stray laser blast heads straight for Splinter's tank. Donatello heroically throws himself in front of the shot and is blasted onto a strange machine. The brothers rush to his side, but Mr. Mortu warns them too late that the device is an active transporter. Before anyone can process what's happening, a white light engulfs the turtles and they vanish, leaving nothing but smoke behind. Out of nowhere, our heroes reappear in an alleyway, but this isn't New York. The place looks like a futuristic sci-fi flick. They've landed in the middle of a firefight between soldiers in white armor, who look like stormtroopers with slightly better aim, and a robot. The turtles help the robot and escape through a hole in a wall, ending up in a trash truck. The realization soon hits. They aren't on Earth. They are on the planet Dahunib, in a galaxy far, far away, while Splinter was left behind in that tank. The robot introduces himself as the Fugitoid. His backstory is tragic. He was Professor Honeycutt, a brilliant scientist who refused to build a teleporter for war. A lightning strike accidentally transferred his mind into the robot's body, and now General Blanky wants his head or processor at any cost. They flee through the sewers, which unlike NYC are pristine, but the peace is short-lived when a massive trash-grinding machine appears to turn them into scrap metal. Donatello, a tech genius on any planet, deactivates the contraption. General Blank isn't giving up, sending his entire army after them. Back on the surface, Mikey gets separated while looking for food and nearly gets riddled with holes by soldiers. Just when it seems like the end, a hovering tank comes barreling through. Guess who's driving? Raphael with a grin from ear to ear. He pulls the team inside and the most insane chase begins. The Fugitoid hacks the tank's systems to take control of the weapons and they blast their way through. Meanwhile, in a dark warehouse, we discover a betrayal. General Blank's assistant is selling info on the Fugitoid. The buyer isn't just anyone, it's a Triceraton, basically a roided up humanoid dinosaur who wants the teleportation tech. Things just got Jurassic for the turtles. Our heroes remain fugitives on the hostile planet Dahunib, hiding in the shadows as Federation ships sweep the city with spotlights in a total dystopian vibe. General Blank is thirsty for the Fugitoid and gives the classic villain order: capture the robot alive and exterminate the turtles. Meanwhile, his treacherous assistant continues playing both sides and sells their location to Commander Mozar, the leader of the Triceratons. To try and fly under the radar, the turtles and the Fugitoid decide to enter a local bar, the Spaceport Inn, essentially the Mos Eisley Cantina, but more dangerous. They improvise disguises with clothes from a laundry line, and guess who gets the short end of the stick? Mikey. He ends up dressed as an alien woman, and to make matters worse, a space trucker starts hitting on him. The guy gets too touchy. Mikey loses his cool and answers the flirting with a kick to the face. Result, disguise ruined and their location leaked to every enemy faction. Federation troops storm the bar, followed by the Triceratons, turning the place into a blaster firefight. In the confusion, the Fugitoid is captured by the buff dinosaurs. Thinking fast, Donatello improvises a bomb using an overheated blaster under a table, using the blast to launch the team out of the bar. They spot the Triceratons escaping with the robot in a flying car, and Donatello hotwires an old vehicle nearby. An adrenaline-pumping aerial chase through an alien forest ensues, Return of the Jedi style, dodging trees and incoming fire. Mikey, with the impulse control of a 5-year-old, starts mashing random buttons on the dash just to see what they do. Naturally, he ejects his own sidecar. In a stroke of absurd luck, he falls back into his brother's car while the empty sidecar takes out an enemy. Their ship eventually gets shot down, but but Donnie manages a crash landing. Leo starts the "we failed the mission" drama, but Donatello reveals he planted a tracer on the Fugitoid. They follow the signal to a Triceraton base that is already under attack by the Federation. Taking advantage of the war between the two factions, Raph leads the breach into the bunker, brawling his way through to rescue their robotic friend. The Fugitoid's situation goes from bad to worse. He's taken to the Triceraton mothership and dragged before Prime Leader Zon Ramon, a dictator who tries to act charming but soon reveals his claws. He wants the teleportation tech, and when he discovers the turtles have also been captured, he uses their lives as bargaining chips. Meanwhile, our heroes are thrown into the Triceraton prison. The place is rough. They are shackled, tagged, and thrown into the slop line. In the mess hall, Mighty stars in the most disgusting and hilarious moment of the day. He sees some people grabbing a gooey paste, thinks it's dessert, and scarfs it down. A prisoner warns him too late that it was floor wax. The ninja runs off to vomit, proving his stomach isn't quite as ironclad as he thought. In the yard, Raph gets into it with Renok, an alien who thinks he owns the place. What starts as hazing turns into a brawl, with Wrath using a table to KO the big guy. The guards, who were watching and eating metaphorical popcorn, intervene with shock prods and throw Raph into solitary confinement. Needing to bust out of that hole, Leo and Donatello hatch a foolproof but gross plan. They need a distraction to swipe a guard's keycard. The solution? Making Mikey sick again. They force the poor guy to eat more floor wax. When the guards come to check the commotion, Mikey projectile vomits in one of their faces. In the chaos, he swallows the guard's remote and then coughs the device back up. It's gross, but it works. Donatello uses his foot to operate the spit-covered remote and free everyone. They storm the security area armed with brooms and plungers, rescue Raph from Solitary, who receives stolen spoons as weapons, and try to escape through the sewers, but their luck runs out. They run into an army of guards. Despite fighting bravely with cleaning supplies, they are electrocuted and recaptured. This time, their destination is worse. They are sent to the games in the arena, where a giant purple monster is already waiting for fresh meat. Welcome to the Space Coliseum. The vibe is full-on Gladiator, complete with sports commentators calling the carnage. The turtles' first challenge is a Spasmosaur, a giant beast with rubbery skin that deflects any attack. Realizing brute force won't work, Leo orders a strategic retreat. They lure the monster into a chase, and, using ninja acrobatics, trick the beast into slamming headfirst into a wall, where it's crushed by a giant statue of the dictator, Zon Ramon. Victory through intellect. Instead of freedom, they are tossed back into a slave gladiator cell. There they meet Gruel, a sadistic taskmaster with an electric whip, and Traximus, an honorable Triceraton imprisoned for speaking out against the government. We get the classic prison movie moment, where the heroes earn the respect of the other inmates by sharing food and standing up to the guards. Traximus becomes the gang's new best friend. Meanwhile, the Federation fleet discovers the planet's location, and is coming in hot for war. But in the arena, the show must go on. Zon Ramon wants blood to pressure the Fugitoid. He pits the gladiators against the turtles in a fight to the death. However, Traximus leads a mutiny, and the gladiators refuse to fight.
We will not fight! We will no longer die to amuse the Prime Leader!
Furious at the peaceful rebellion, Zon Ramon sends in his all-star team of warriors to end the party. The turtles, now armed thanks to Traximus's internal contacts, mop the floor with the dictator's champions. The crowd goes wild and calls for mercy, but Zon Ramon gives the thumbs down signal. Donatello uses Mikey and Raph as a springboard and launches himself into the air, hijacking a guard's flying car. He's a terrible pilot and crashes the vehicle right into the VIP box where the villain is sitting. Leo seizes the chance, leaps into the wreckage, and puts a blade to Zon Ramon's throat, taking the Supreme Leader hostage in front of the entire Empire. Tension is at an all-time high, with guards surrounding them and the turtles in a do-or-die situation. The tension is at Terminator 2 levels. The Fugitoid finally agrees to build a teleporter to send the turtles back home, but with a dark condition. If the plan fails, Leonardo must hit a button and blow the robot to smithereens. The mood is heavy. The group decides to ditch the Triceraton ship, and Zon Ramon offers his personal cruiser. There's just one tiny detail. The dictator left the mic on purpose, and Commander Mozar heard everything, setting an ambush in the hangar. The escape turns into a classic Star Wars cluster fudge. Mid-firefight, Zon Ramon and tries to pull a fast one, but ends up falling from an absurd height. With no time to check if the villain turned into a pancake, the gang steals the ship and hammers the throttle. The Fugitoid proves he's a better pilot than Han Solo, weaving through asteroids and causing enemy ships to crash into each other like bumper cars. Just when they think they're clear, they run into the entire Federation fleet. To make matters worse, the Triceraton fleet arrives from the other side. It's a spacefaring Mexican standoff. The General and Commander Mozart start bickering over the radio like kids over a new toy, until the assistant is exposed as the mole. While the two armies tear each other apart, our heroes land on an asteroid to try and build the teleporter in a rush. Leo, trying to solve it with diplomacy, brokers a ceasefire between the two factions. Obviously, it lasts shorter than a dying iPhone battery. The shooting resumes, the escape ship is destroyed, and the teleporter fails miserably. Cornered and out of options, the Fugitoid begs Leo to fulfill his promise and blow him up. Leo freezes. He's got the detonator in his hand. Cold sweat running down his face, caught in a heavy moral dilemma. But before he can decide, a divine light shines down. No, it's not heaven. It's that teleportation beam we saw back at the TCRI building. Everyone, including some nearby enemy soldiers, starts to disintegrate and get sucked away. A finale worthy of Lost, leaving us all baffled. Remember that mysterious light? Well, the turtles, the Fugitoid, and a few enemy soldiers are teleported straight to the TCRI building on Earth. It's a triumphant return, but the welcome committee is pure chaos. The soldiers start blasting until alien guards with stasis weapons freeze everyone. And look who shows up, Master Splinter, alive and well.
My sons, stop!
Master Splinter?
They are not our enemy.
Huh?
The rat was saved by the Utrons, the aliens running the joint. After an emotional reunion, Mr. Mortu decides the secrets are over. He unzips his human skin to reveal the truth. He's a pink, brain-like alien with tentacles piloting a robotic body. It's like Men in Black, but weirder. They explain they are peaceful and take the gang into a Matrix-style VR room to tell the story of how they crashed on Earth centuries ago. Meanwhile, outside, the National Guard is surrounding the building with tanks, thinking it's an alien invasion, which technically it is. But the real danger is Baxter Stockman. He's down to just his head on a robotic spider body, looking like a rejected toy from Sid's room in Toy Story. He infiltrates the building through the vents, ready to hack the system. Back in the Utron's Matrix, the Turtles and Splinter watch a simulation of feudal Japan. They see the Utron ship crashing and the aliens trying to adapt using samurai armor. It's very educational, like Assassin's Creed without the bugs, until Baxter Stockman messes with the cables. The mad scientist hacks the simulation and disables the safety protocols. Suddenly, the virtual feudal shredder becomes a real threat and starts attacking. And as in any good VR movie, if you die in the game, you die in real life. The turtles' weapons vanish, and Mikey takes a brutal hit, falling into critical condition. The history lesson has turned into a nightmare. The tables have turned, literally. Trapped in the simulation hacked by Baxter Stockman, the turtles are fighting for their lives against virtual ninjas who now hit for real. Splinter tells Leo to go into stealth mode to save the injured Mikey. Meanwhile, in the real world, Mr. Mortu is desperate to fix the VR pods, but Stockman has fried the system. In the simulation, things get even worse. The feudal shredder receives a new blade from his blacksmiths, and it's not just any sword, it's the sword of Tengu, the same one that fires sonic shockwaves. The villain tests the weapon on his own blacksmiths just to make sure it works. Classic psychopath move.
Is perfect. With it, my enemies.
Outside the TCRI building, the situation is at a 5-star wanted level. The National Guard has run out of patience and launches an aerial strike, blowing through the building's armor and swarming the place. The Utrons are panicking, trying to evacuate, but Mortu refuses to abandon his friends trapped in the Matrix. And Baxter Stockman? He's playing both sides. He disables the building's defenses and opens the back door for the real Shredder and his gang to enter. Yes, the chaos is complete. The army at the front door, ninjas in the basement, and turtles trapped in the computer. Inside the virtual reality, an epic battle unfolds. Shredder attacks with the sword of Tengu and nearly finishes Splinter, but the ninja rat, even wounded, gives Leonardo the golden tip, mind over matter. Leo finally realizes he's in a simulation, channels his inner Neo, and in a badass moment makes the sword vanish from the villain's hand and appear in his own. With the cheat code activated, he defeats the virtual Shredder. Mortu manages to feed them an emergency exit device. They hit the button and wake up, only to find the real-life Shredder, Hun, and the entire Foot Elite waiting for them in the room. Talk about jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Chaos at the TCRI building has reached critical levels. The Shredder finally corners the Utrons, and in a soap opera-worthy revelation, it's discovered that he is the same Oroku Saki from feudal Japan. The guy has been waiting 10 centuries for this revenge. While the brawl breaks out, Leonardo rescues an Utron and tosses him to Donatello, who catches him like a football. But the Shredder has some HR issues. Baxter Stockman, tired of being treated like garbage, refuses to follow orders. The boss's response? He electrocutes the scientist via a security system in his exoskeleton.
Implement phase 3, now!
Yes!
A frying Stockman flees toward the transmat. In a fit of strategic rage, the villain blows everything up and escapes with his gang, leaving the turtles trapped in a room filling with a strange ooze. To make matters worse, the walls are made of self-regenerating techno-organic material, a bit like the T-1000. Donatello, the resident genius, realizes they need to give the room indigestion. They start pounding the walls in a specific rhythm, Blue Man Group style, until the building literally spits them out. Outside, April O'Neil goes into full nostalgia mode. She dons her classic yellow jumpsuit from the 80s and poses as a reporter, with Casey Jones as her cameraman, to slip past the military. It's the perfect disguise. Back inside at the transmat, things are tense. The Shredder corners the Utrons, ready to send them somewhere horrific. The turtles arrive just in time, and Donatello has another brilliant plan. He asks the Fugitoid to mimic Shredder's voice. The robot complies, ordering Stockman to attack the real Saki. The scientist, free from mental control, unleashes his pent-up rage and fries the Shredder, who falls defeated. But like any good action movie villain, he leaves a parting gift. A techno-organic time bomb set to implode the building in 10 minutes. While Donatello tries to defuse the bomb and nearly dies from a digital virus infection, the Utrons begin to evacuate. Here, we get another sensational fan service reference. One Utron complains about walking on his tentacles, and the other snaps, "Shut up, Krang." It's the multiverse at work. The Shredder rises again with his elite guard. However, Donatello hacks the transmat to blast an absurd electrical discharge into the villain's armor. The Shredder falls, seemingly dead. Then comes the plot twist that changes everything. The armor opens, and a small red Utron with a scar crawls out. Yes, the Shredder is a criminal alien piloting a robotic body just like in Men in Black. The alien snaps, trying to bite Raphael, but Splinter shuts it down. With the timer hitting 0, the turtles teleport outside. The Shredder tries to jump into the beam at the last second, but misses. The TCRI building implodes in a silent white light, leaving only a crater in the middle of New York. The turtles fall safely from the sky, ready to explain this whole mess to April and Casey. After the insane adrenaline of New York, the mood shifts completely. We are now at Casey's grandmother's farmhouse in Northampton, Massachusetts. It's that The Walking Dead style breather moment where the group finds a safe haven, just with fewer zombies and more ninja training. While April and Casey try to relax, Master Splinter decides that a vacation is no excuse for laziness and puts the boys through blindfolded training. Leonardo, the straight-A student, is the only one who excels, which creates some friction among the brothers. Raph, always the hothead, starts listing the leader's failures, reminding everyone of when Leo almost allied with the Shredder. This opens the door for a classic flashback episode where the gang revisits the season's greatest hits. They recount everything. Master Splinter saving their shells during their first encounter with the Shredder, the fire that destroyed April's antique shop, which still gets to her, and the time Leo decapitated the villain, only to discover now that he was an alien piloting a robot all along.
Man, when we found out the Shredder was an Utron, I nearly soiled my shell. Nasty little bug.
The conversation turns heavy when they remember the death of Yoshi. Casey Jones, lacking the patience of a monk, snaps at all the tragic stories, smashes a chair against a tree, and lets out a primal scream. It's his way of dealing with their collective grief. April, acting as the group's emotional glue, calms Casey down, and they have a sweet moment holding hands until they realize the romantic vibe and let go quickly. But Donatello, whose brain never stops, drops the philosophical bombshell of the day. If the Utron Shredder hadn't crashed his ship on Earth and created the mutagen, the turtles would still be just normal turtles in a bowl. Basically, they owe their existence to their worst enemy. It's a Terminator paradox that leaves everyone reflecting. Leo tries to give a motivational speech about family, but Mikey kills the mood by mocking the sappiness. This kicks off a food fight and wrestling match on the grass, proving that, at the end of the day, they're just teenagers. Splinter watches the chaos and admits to April that while teaching ninjutsu is easy, teaching manners is the real challenge. Back in New York, the peace is short-lived. Atop a skyscraper, a man appears in an over-the-top costume with mystical water powers, looking for Leonardo. This is the ultimate ninja, a guy who looks like he stepped out of a fighting game and is desperate for a reputation. In the sewers, domestic life is hilarious. April is staying with them temporarily, and the culture shock is real. Her clothes are drying in the bathroom, and Leo is nearly having a Sheldon Cooper meltdown over the mess. Splinter, on the other hand, is loving the company and the pampering, like having his fur brushed. The gang gathers to watch a western, Rio Gato, which ironically tells the story of a young gunslinger seeking fame by killing a legend, some heavy-handed foreshadowing for what's to come. When they head out for ice cream, the ultimate ninja appears and challenges Leonardo to a duel to the death. The motive? He wanted to kill the Shredder to prove he's the greatest warrior on Earth, but since Leo already defeated the villain, the turtle is now the target. The rules are simple and brutal. Leo accepts the duel or his friends die. If he accepts and loses, only he dies. With no choice, Leo agrees and is teleported to Central Park. The battle is intense, shifting environments like levels in a video game. It starts in the park, moves to the roof of a speeding truck, and ends on the Brooklyn Bridge. The ultimate ninja plays dirty, using tricks and even magic powder to blind Leo, proving Otter isn't his strong suit. Raphael, watching through a mystical water mirror with the rest of the family, is fuming and wants to intervene, but the ghostly judge forbids interference. On the bridge, things get ugly. The cheating ninja tries to knock Leo into the river by cutting the cables he's holding, but Leonardo, in a stroke of genius, uses the enemy's own claw to break his fall and scales back to the top.
Phew, I have got to get me a pair of these.
The villain was already celebrating and giving a victory speech, but Leo reappears, disarms him, and humiliates him with pure technique. When the ultimate ninja tries one last dirty trick by summoning a smoke dragon, the beast is sliced in half by a massive figure appearing out of nowhere. It's the daimyo, the ninja's father, and a powerful cosmic being. He gives his son a monumental scolding for fighting without honor, and reveals that Earth's ninjutsu was actually taught by his people centuries ago. It's like finding out karate came from Mars. The daimyo congratulates Leonardo on an honorable victory and vanishes with his spoiled son, leaving the Turtles and Splinter with the feeling that the universe is much bigger than they thought. At Turtle HQ, the mood is tense from the jump. April discovers the ultimate roommate crime. Someone finished the toothpaste. To make things worse, Mikey is flying through the living room on an anti-gravity skateboard, causing chaos until Raphael puts a stop to it. The culprit behind the tech is, of course, Donatello, who just wanted his brother to be quiet for a while. April gets no peace even when Casey Jones shows up, asking her out on a not a date to a carnival at Coney Island. Meanwhile, at the local junkyard, a scene straight out of The Iron Giant, but evil, unfolds. The nanobots reconstruct themselves into a robot child, becoming obsessed with a 1950s sitcom playing on a broken TV. But Nanobot decides it wants that white picket fence family and goes after its daddy, the thief, Harry Parker. Harry is in jail cheating at cards, but the game ends when Nano invades the prison Terminator style, literally swallows Harry into its chest, and bails.
Do nothing.
At home, April gets some wilted flowers from Casey and reiterates it's not a date, though nobody's buying it. The Turtles see Harry's escape on the news, and Donatello, playing machine psychologist, decides Nano just needs good parents and tracks down the robot's patent. Nano invades a lab and kidnaps Dr. Richards, its creator, to be the mommy. It builds a bizarre scrap metal set mimicking the TV living room and forces the two hostages to play house. The vibe is pure Pleasantville mixed with a horror movie. Whenever the parents argue, argue, the robot snaps and nearly crushes them. At Coney Island, a romantic moment between Casey and April almost happens atop the roller coaster, but it's interrupted by Nano, who arrives wrecking everything in a quest for forced happiness. The turtles gatecrash the party, but the robot remembers they beat him before and turns into a giant scrap metal kaiju. Donatello has a bright idea: hack the roller coaster, yes really, to create an EMP. While the brothers act as live bait, Donatello and April set the trap. Mikey lures the monster onto the tracks and zap! The shock fries Nano's system, saving the hostages. In the end, Harry goes to jail, April gets the reward money to move out, and we get a Fast and Furious moment where everyone remembers that family is what matters most. It's late in the sewers, and Mikey is suffering because sleeping in the same room as Raphael is like sleeping next to a running chainsaw. He wanders the lair, gets a jump scare from April, who's packing to move, and ends up bothering Donatello, who's building a launch pad in the pool. Mikey decides to help with some underwater welding and runs smack into a crocodile. But not just any Florida gator, it's a giant monster. No one believes him, thinking he's just sleep deprived. But since Mikey is stubborn, Donatello equips him with a GoPro-style camera and sends him back into the water. Mikey finds the beast again and follows it to the turtles' old hideout. The mutant Croc is there messing with gadgets and talking to himself. When Mikey is spotted, a frantic chase through the tunnels ensues until the beast corners him. Then comes the plot twist. The monster apologizes, very politely.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I get carried away.
This is Leatherhead. Just as they're becoming friends, the other brothers come flying in with a dropkick, ruining the diplomacy. After a general brawl, peace is brokered, and Leatherhead shares his story, but Crocodile hit by the same mutagen as the turtles. He was adopted by the Utrons and became a scientific genius. The problem is, his current friend is none other than Baxter Stockman, and the villain's look is disgusting. He's just a head in a glass jar inside an exoskeleton, looking like something out of Futurama, but without the humor. Stockman manipulates Leatherhead, claiming the turtles are villains. He unleashes a turtle bot that copies the ninja's moves, similar to Marble's Taskmaster. The team takes a beating until they swap weapons to confuse the robot's system. Seeing he's lost, Stockman reveals the truth, humiliates the crocodile, and blows the ceiling to escape. The place begins to collapse, and Leatherhead, in a dramatic act, decides to hold up the falling rocks to save the turtles and protect his transmat machine, staying behind as he's buried alive. The turtles escape, but the mood is heavy over the loss of their new buff intellectual friend. Donatello is pulling an all-nighter, fueled by energy drinks, studying crystals to cure the mutants living underground. He has a mystical dream that tips him off on how to use sound to liquefy the crystals. Excited, he presents the team's new machine, the Turtle Tunneler, basically a giant drill on wheels that would make any character from Armageddon jealous. They board the vehicle and dig toward the subterranean city. Upon arrival, they find a nasty surprise. The crystal moon that kept the inhabitants in human form is gone. Now the place looks like a Resident Evil movie, crawling with monsters. Their vehicle is knocked into a lava river, but since Donatello thinks of everything, the tank is lava-proof. They invade the city and run into their friend Quarry, only now she's transformed into a monster and is definitely not happy. After a struggle where Raph holds the beast down, Donatello injects the serum, and she turns back into Sydney. She explains they tried to break off shards of the moon with explosives, but overdid the gunpowder and knocked the whole moon into the lava. Geniuses.
From the cavern's ceiling and sank beneath the molten lava. Without the moon's regenerative power,
The plan now is to fish the moon back out. Donatello uses the tunneler as a winch, while the other brothers plant explosives to topple a tower to act as a lever. While Donatello and Sydney drive the drill through the magma, Leo, Raph, and Mikey deal with hordes of monsters and end up trapped in giant spider webs. Leo breaks free at the last second, releases his brothers, and they detonate the tower. Cartoon physics work. The tower falls, pulls the cable, and the crystal moon emerges from the lava, instantly curing everyone nearby. The radio goes silent, and it looks like Donatello is toast, but the tunneler leaps from the lava in a heroic moment. With the cure distributed, they take the group to the surface to see the sunset for the first time in years. Sydney is moved and thanks them. In the end, there's a bro moment where Mikey admits that even though he's annoying, he's proud of his nerd brother, and Donatello hops back into the sewer with the smile of someone who saved the day using science and giant drills. The episode starts with a total The Dark Knight vibe. with Leonardo racing across the New York rooftops at night. He's trying to go full Batman, hitting a target but missing the bullseye. Raphael, with his usual swagger, hits it dead center and gives him the real talk. Fancy technique doesn't win games. The city looks like a GTA online server with no moderators. With the Shredder out of the picture, a massive power vacuum has opened. We've got gangsters, the Foot Clan, and other factions fighting for turf. Leo and Raph witness a deal gone wrong that turns into a shootout, but Raph holds his brother back, reminding him it's not their problem. The police arrive to break up the mess. Far away in Japan, we meet Karai. She receives news of the chaos in New York and, like a competent CEO taking over a failing company, hops on a private jet to restore order. At the hideout, Leo is being insufferable. He feels guilty for taking out the Shredder and causing this chaos, like when you kill a boss in a video game only to unlock even worse enemies. Splinter tells him to chill, but Leo ignores the wise rat and goes out to take justice into his own hands. He finds a warehouse full of ninjas and mobsters and tries to play bomb squad by disarming an explosive, but he fails miserably. The place blows up Michael Bay style, and Leo is blown into the river. Meanwhile, the gang war escalates. Mikey tries to predict the winner using RPG stats, which is classic Mikey. But the big news is that the mobsters have found a high-profile ally, Baxter Stockman, and the guy is a pure sci-fi nightmare, just his head on a robotic body, looking like a rejected villain from RoboCop. Leo, who survived the explosion, protagonist power, is rescued by his brothers during another rooftop confrontation. But then Stockman arrives with his new robotic toy and starts blasting everyone. Leo tries to be the hero again, destroying the robot's sensors, but the move backfires and the machine starts firing randomly. Stockman and the mobsters trigger Plan B, blowing up the entire building with the turtles inside. Raph uses his final seconds to throw it in Leo's face. This is all his fault. Talk about a tense family dinner tonight. If you thought they turned into turtle puree, you thought wrong. The group survives the collapse but has no time to breathe. Stockman's robot emerges from the rubble in Terminator mode and attacks everything that moves, including a civilian bus. Leo, with his hero complex flaring up, enters the overturned bus to save a passenger, while Raph complains they're going to be exposed. While the city burns, the criminal hierarchy shifts. At Purple Dragon HQ, a guy named Dragonface tries to take command, but Hun comes flying off a girder and settles the dispute WWE style, reclaiming leadership to honor the Shredder's memory. On the streets, the brawl continues. Raph tries to ram the robot with a bus but fails. Donatello devises a plan using power lines and water, frying the box, but the joy is short-lived because two more robots appear. Mikey flees and ends up hiding in laundry lines in a scene straight out of Bugs Bunny. He bumps into April and Casey Jones, who are in the middle of moving. Casey, always down for a fight, grabs the keys to April's van and heads for the rescue. The mobsters and Stockman see the tide turn when Hun arrives with a bazooka. They try to flee but end up crashing their truck because of their own haywire robots. Instant karma. Casey and Mikey arrive with the van, rescue the team, and escape Hun's missiles in a classic chase sequence.
Road Warrior moves, Casey! Woohoo!
They take refuge in a water tower, but peace doesn't last. Leo and Raph are still screaming at each other. Raph hits his limit, gives an ultimatum, and walks out, Zane leaving One Direction style, leaving the group behind. To make things worse, a planted bomb explodes. They fall onto the roof and come face to face with Karai and her thugs. Karai defeats Leo, pins him down, and lays out the deal. They either listen to what she has to say, or the leader in the blue bandana is history. Karai uses the most aggressive negotiation tactic possible. Listen, or Leo dies. Raph, who was walking away, comes back pissed off, but drops his weapons begrudgingly. Karai explains she's not looking for revenge right now. She wants to end the gang war that's destroying business. The proposal is a temporary truce. Raph, stubborn as a mule, refuses to ally with the enemy and leaves for good. Leo, being pragmatic or desperate, accepts the alliance. Casey stays with the team because, in his words, the ones who made the mess have to clean it up. Karai's plan is bold. She essentially eventually performs a Comic-Con level cosplay of the Shredder. With the armor and a voice modulator, she pretends the big boss has returned from the dead to restore order. It works. The Foot Clan, the Purple Dragons, led by Hun, and the Mafia, with Stockman and the big boss, schedule a meeting at a warehouse. The atmosphere is tense. Like the finale of the Warriors, Karai, in disguise, tries to intimidate everyone, but a mobster throws a grenade and her mask falls, literally.
Baxter Stockman! Sayonara!
When they realize it's Karai and not the real Shredder, it becomes a free-for-all. Hun and the Foot Elite feel betrayed and turn on her. The Turtles emerge from the shadows to help Karai, but they are absurdly outnumbered. Casey gets caught in the net, big help guy, and it looks like game over. Hun is about to execute the team when shurikens fly in and blow his gun away. It's Raph. He came back with a guilty conscience and brought Master Splinter with him. It's that classic movie moment where the cavalry arrives at the final second. With the full team and the Rat Sensei handing out beatdowns, the tide turns. Karai subdues the Foot Elite, and Hun is kicked out of the building, landing right on the roof of a police cruiser. Peace is restored, for now. Karai keeps her word and says the Foot Clan won't bother the Turtles today. But the ending delivers a plot twist to keep us worried. Karai returns to HQ and enters a secret room. Inside, in a recovery tank straight out of The Empire Strikes Back, is the true Shredder, peeling and vowing revenge. The truce was just halftime. New York City is facing a major navigation crisis, and it's not the traffic. Ships are mysteriously sinking in the harbor, like a Hudson River version of the Bermuda Triangle. Donatello, never one to miss a chance to show off a new gadget, unveils the Shell Sub, a yellow submarine that would make the Beatles jealous. Michelangelo, naturally, is dying to take the helm. They dive into the depths and stumble upon a scene straight out of BioShock, an underwater city built entirely from trash and scrap metal. But before they could admire the engineering, they are swallowed by a massive mechanical whale submarine. Inside, the welcome is anything but warm. Guards armed with stun batons capture the duo and haul them to their leader. And guess who? It's the Garbage Man, the trash-obsessed villain we thought was long gone. He's built his own empire, Junklantis, and plans to dissect the Turtles just to see what makes them tick. Thrown into a cell, Donatello and Mikey decide they aren't about to become science experiments. They take down the guards, steal their uniforms, and pull off a Hitman-style stealth infiltration. They soon discover the Garbage Man is aiming high. His next target is a luxury cruise ship filled with the wealthy elite. The duo sneaks back into the mechanical whale and makes it to the bridge. The Garbage Man tries to crush Donatello with hydraulic claws, but Mikey thinks fast. He grabs an oxygen tank and improvises a rocket right under the villain, launching the big guy straight into the ceiling.
Time to ventilate, crap boy!
With the boss knocked out, Donatello reprograms the whale to veer away from the cruise ship and crash directly into Junklantis. Two birds, one stone. As they try to flee, their sub stalls like a beat-up car in a horror movie. Mikey, employing the ancient technique of percussive maintenance, whacks the console with a pipe, and the engine roars to life. They escape seconds before the mechanical whale obliterates the trash city. But the villain is persistent. The Garbage Man reappears in a smaller craft, seeking revenge. Donatello fires off a few explosives, and the villain ends up plummeting into a bottomless underwater abyss. Is he dead? In a cartoon, we know that's a relative term. Back in the lair, Raph asks what happened, and Donatello simply sums it up as a long story. It's a Mighty Ducks vibe in Central Park during a late-night hockey game where Casey Jones is practically drooling over the championship prize, the Golden Puck. It's the holy grail of hockey, but the joy is short-lived. A high-tech gang called the Texas Roughnecks drops from the sky on motorized parachutes, opening fire, tossing grenades, and smashing the puck. Casey is livid. Nobody interrupts his hockey. While the Turtles want to leave it to the police, Casey charges ahead and the brothers end up borrowing some snowmobiles meant for a raffle to chase him down. It turns into Fast and Furious on ice. The chase leads into the subway, where Raph narrowly avoids getting toasted by a laser blast to his bike. The crooks escape on a train, but leave behind a clue, a matchbook from a posh hotel. At the hotel, it's a stealth mission. They break into the villain's room using Donatello's gadgets. However, the opposing team returns early. Mikey improvises by pretending to be room service delivering towels, getting the rest of the team just enough time to pull Casey, who was doing a terrible job of hiding, out the window. We discover the leader is a wealthy tycoon named Mr. Arnie, who wants to use the puck to blackmail Bahakuli. The Turtles and Casey intercept their van and hijack the vehicle with the puck inside. Now it's 3 limos chasing 1 van. Raph, in a pure Michael Bay action movie moment, is tossed from the roof, lands on a limo, kicks through the windshield, and KOs the driver, causing a spectacular multi-car pileup. The grand finale takes place back at the Central Park rink. They lure the gang there. Casey, with his trusty hockey stick, sends the lead villain flying straight into the goal net. The police arrive to clean up the mess, and Casey ends the night feeling like the king of the ice, proving you don't need to be a mutant to kick some serious shell. Bad news, the Shredder is back and brand new. Karai pulls the alien from the stasis tank, and he dons his classic armor. The mood is tense at Foot Clan HQ as the gang wars have decimated their forces, but Hun has an ace up his sleeve. He leads the boss to a lab where Baxter Stockman's brain, now looking like a pickled specimen in a jar, has created new foot mechs, including a perfect replica of Master Splinter. Meanwhile, in the sewers, the Turtles stumble upon a massive Triceraton. It's Zog, but the poor guy has a cracked helmet, and Earth's atmosphere is making him completely delirious. He hallucinates that the Turtles are his military generals. Leo, playing along, pretends to be the commander and orders Zog to report. Donatello, feeling sorry for the suffocating giant, improvises an air filter to help him breathe, but the hallucinations persist. Now they have a pet dinosaur tank. Then things get weird. A battered and bruised Splinter appears, begging for help. They take him home, but when they arrive, there's another Splinter waiting for them. It's the Spider-Man pointing meme, but with ninja rats. The Shredder and Hun watch the whole thing on monitors, gloating. The injured Splinter reveals itself to be the robot, attacking everyone and brutalizing the real Splinter. The mech is too strong. The solution? Leo yells to Zog, "Soldier, destroy the enemy!" The Triceraton doesn't hesitate. He grabs the robot and snaps it in half like a dry twig. Donatello analyzes the scrap and finds a remote control signal. They track the source to a freighter at the docks. The Shredder, being no fool, knows they're coming and sets a trap. Karai is visibly shaken. After all, she had promised the Turtles a truce. The Turtles storm the ship with Zog. The plan is to sink the freighter with the Shredder on board, while Mikey and Zog go to untie the moorings. Leo, Raph, and Splinter head for the bridge. But Hun and the Foot Elite are already there, waiting with the kind of smiles that say they're about to ruin someone's day. And Mikey, he's surrounded by ninjas outside, and the radio just went silent. Things are about to get ugly. Chaos reigns at the docks. While Mikey and our favorite dinosaur, Zog, are laying the smackdown on the Foot Ninjas, the Shredder's ship begins to set sail. Problem is, they forgot to untie the lines. Zog, in full Terminator mode, uses brute force to rip the moorings apart with his horn, but ends up falling into the water. Mikey manages to save himself by climbing the cable, but the Triceraton vanishes into the seat. Inside, Donatello is playing Mission Impossible, hot wiring the ship to turn it into a ticking time bomb. But up on the bridge, the situation has soured. Hun, the human mountain, captures Master Splinter and uses him as a hostage to force Leo and Raph to surrender. In the ship's lab, a tense loyalty test unfolds. The Shredder orders Karai to finish off the Turtles and Splinter. She tries to argue about honor, but the boss makes it clear loyalty to him outweighs any samurai code. Karai reaches the bridge where the heroes are bound. She's visibly torn but draws her sword. However, Hun, wanting to watch the world burn, releases Leonardo to make the fight interesting. A philosophical duel ensues, with Leo lecturing Karai on morality while they clash. When he gives Karai a chance to prove her honor, she hesitates. Hun, who has no honor to speak of, decides to end the party himself. That's when the script peaks. Zog returns from the depths like a living war machine, smashes through the door, and hurls Hun off the ship like a bag of laundry. The team reunites, but Donatello warns them the ship is going to turn into fireworks in 5 minutes. They try to flee, but the Shredder, now in his fierce new armor, blocks their path on deck. Total mayhem breaks out. Robots are exploding, lasers are flying, and the floor gives way, dropping everyone back into the burning lab. the Shredder is about to deliver a killing blow to Splinter when Zog, the episode's MVP, tackles the villain. The hallucinating, heroic Triceraton decides today is a good day to die. He grabs the Shredder in a bear hug and hurls himself into a fiery abyss, shouting, "For the Republic," a sacrifice worthy of a war epic. The turtles dive into the ocean seconds before the ship pulls a Titanic and explodes. While they mourn the loss of Zog, we see that bad weeds grow tall. Karai appears in a chopper and rescues a charged Shredder. And for a bizarre finishing touch, Baxter Stockman's brain is seen bobbing in the water, happy as a clam to have survived yet again. Everything seemed peaceful at April's antique shop during that classic "let's clean up this mess" session that always leads to more mess. Raph, poking around where he shouldn't, finds a puzzle box belonging to Uncle Augie, April's long-lost relative. The box glows, and boom! Everyone is transported to a random jungle in another dimension, Jumanji style. They barely arrive before things go south. Giant wasps looking like they crawled out of a radioactive nightmare kidnap Donatello and Raph. The rest of the group gives chase, with April channeling her inner Lara Croft to lead the ninjas through the brush. They find a treehouse and rescue the brothers, but Raph takes a sting to the leg and is paralyzed from the waist down. In the house, they discover Uncle Augie ended up there too, but the wasp swarm returns in full force, tearing the house down. They narrowly escape, and while huddling around a campfire that night, April discovers in her uncle's diary that a giant version of the puzzle box exists in a temple, which could take them home. The next day, they reach the temple, but the place is infested. Donatello, ever the genius, suggests covering themselves in mud to mask their scent. It works like a charm, and they slip into the nest. Inside, Mikey Bean Mikey accidentally bumps a cocoon and wakes the entire hive. Chaos erupts. They lock themselves in a chamber containing the giant box. While April and Donatello try to solve the mathematical riddle to activate the portal, the other three have to hold off the Wasp Queen in a brutal brawl. One by one, the brothers are paralyzed by venom, leaving April to go full gladiator and impale the monster with a spear. At the very last second, with the Queen charging again, the portal activates, and they are teleported back to the shop in New York. Casey Jones walks in complaining about the smell, having no clue the gang almost became interdimensional bug food. Mikey is living every comic book reader's nightmare. He's reading a Justice Force issue, but the story ends on a deadly cliffhanger and he doesn't have the next issue. He loses it, interrupts Splinter's meditation, and convinces Casey Jones to go on a road trip to Northampton to find the missing issue at a specialty shop. When they arrive, it's cosplay day. The shop owner, an old-timer named Steve, tells them that specific issue was never released. Mikey is crushed, but the disappointment is brief because robots, the exact ones from the comic, invade the shop for real. It turns out the comics were based on true events. The shop owner is Stainless Steel Steve, the team leader, and the Justice Force is real. Steve takes the gang to meet the rest of the team at their mansion. It's like an Avengers retirement home. There's a speedster in a wheelchair and an elastic man, Joe Elastic, who can't snap back to normal after stretching. They explain that their former ally, Dr. Dome, has turned villain. The robots attack again and kidnap the aging heroes. The turtles track the signal to a dome-shaped fortress. To get in, they use the heads of destroyed robots as disguises, a tactic that is 50% Metal Gear Solid and 50% ridiculous. Inside comes the plot twist. Dr. Dome isn't the sadistic villain he seemed. The real mastermind is his daughter, Ananda, who also has mental superpowers and is bitter over her mother's death, blaming the team. She controls the robots and imprisons everyone. Dr. Dome, proving that a father's love conquers all, breaks his daughter's mental control using a giant robot. A family moment ensues, with tears, forgiveness, and hugs, ending a years-long feud. Steve thanks the Turtles, and impressed by Mikey's encyclopedic knowledge of the team's tactics, names him an honorary member of the Justice Force. The episode ends on a freeze frame mimicking the comic cover Mikey wanted so badly, with him drawn right alongside the heroes. Pure meta-commentary. Old Man Splinter decides to play retired spy, slipping through the shadows and opening a mystic portal in a brick wall. But of course, his 4 idiot teenage mutant sons haven't mastered the concept of giving the father figures some space. They tail him like attention-seeking leeches, jumping headfirst into danger. They tumble into a bizarre forest and immediately start getting the life beaten out of them by monsters called the Gomtai. It's a humiliation so profound that Leonardo manages the impossible feat of snapping his own katanas, leaving him holding 2 limp, useless stubs. A grim-faced character named Gyoji spawns out of nowhere to sweep the defeated turtles off the floor, and the brothers reappear on a hill, where they come face to face with a massive interdimensional coliseum. At the center of the arena stands Splinter, casually dismantling Djinn, a 4-armed powerhouse. The old rat proves age hasn't rusted his joints, dominating the brute with pure agility and revealing his secret penchant for brawling. He is the reigning champion of a tournament known as the Battle Nexus. Suddenly, we're thrown into a flashback where, years ago, Splinter was cornered by a hideous reptilian named Draco. His furry tail was only saved by the hyperactive samurai rabbit Usagi and the ultimate daimyo, the absolute ruler of this entire dimension. Back in the present, the daimyo appears with his offspring, the ultimate ninja, the same costume brat who tried to slice Leo into ribbons in previous episodes. The kid puts his hands together and offers an apology with the face of an unrehabilitated psychopath, and somehow, with the most staggering naivety in the universe, he's forgiven. The turtles secure a free pass into the tournament, and Leo is promised his swords will be hard and sharp again soon. But when he decides to go full-on simpleton and meditate completely exposed in the Pavilion of Champions, while staring at a statue of Yoshi, a pack of shadow ninjas surrounds him. They aim a massive crossbow directly at his spine, proving that closing your eyes and letting your guard down in this bizarre world is a one-way ticket to being brutally impaled. Leonardo almost becomes a turtle kebab, but survival instinct kicks in just in time. He dodges the tragedy and is immediately offered a helping hand by the talented and furry samurai rabbit, Usagi. Still missing his signature blades, Leo improvises by grabbing a random armored helmet to use as a shield. Together, the duo turns the assassins into cheap mincemeat on the cold pavilion floor. To boost his mood, Gyoji reappears, returning his katanas, now fully restored, long, and ready for the friction he's been craving. Inside the brutal arena, the daimyo raises towering barricades with a flick of his gaudy war staff, greenlighting the most insane battle royale in the galaxy. Everyone starts trading blows with gusto, except for the useless academic Donatello, who proves in practice that he's strictly team support. He gets blindsided and booted from the fight early, relegated to crying in the stands like a shut-in with no social life. Away from the spotlight and comfortable behind the dark curtains, the ultimate ninja peels off his repentant son mask. He reveals his treachery, plotting a bloody coup d'etat alongside a cowardly accomplice hidden under a hood. In the second round, the stakes rise as Splinter faces off against the uncontrollable Michelangelo. Overflowing with paternal pity mixed with boredom, the rat simply lays down and forfeits to let his little sprout grow, handing over the win on a silver platter. Trying to wash away the awkward vibe, Raphael goes on a skull-crushing spree, publicly massacring the dinosaurian aberration known as Traximus. The key duel of the bracket features Leo facing Usagi head-on. The two square up, sweating honor, respect, and overheated blades. But the ultimate ninja rips up the rulebook and plays dirty from his VIP box. He spits a poison dart fueled by pure spite that hits Leonardo square in the neck, ruining the moment. The mutant's vision goes dark, and he drops like a stone, collapsing like a useless worm on the grass of the greatest war arena. With Leo twitching on the ground like a cockroach that inhaled raid, Donatello loses his mind. He suspects the samurai rabbit of injecting that suspicious liquid and looks for a fight, but Usagi doesn't flinch. He shoves his innocence in the amateur turtle's face, and the two team up to carry the unconscious sack of potatoes to the local mystic healer. Meanwhile, inside the untouchable palace, the ultimate ninja's cowardly coup finally materializes. Forcing an aging Splinter to dive into the fray to save his royal partner. But the treacherous brat puts on an amateur theatrical performance, bizarrely accusing the rat master of the atrocity. With his hands tied by the insanity of it all, Splinter is tossed into the dank, disgusting hole at the bottom of the Imperial dungeon, In the depressing underworld of the prison, the vengeful lunatic spreads his wings and reveals his profane secret. The hooded figure was Draco all along, the deformed dinosaur and historic enemy of Splinter's whiskers. While his father rots in jail, the food-obsessed walking incompetence known as Michelangelo spills a drink on a random short alien in the marketplace. The alien promptly convulses and transforms into a massive wall of muscle named Claw. Thanks to his cuckold's luck, Destiny locks Mikey into a bracket against that literal slab of raw testosterone. In a moment of classic shifty illusionist thievery, Mikey swaps the combatant sticks, but he only succeeds in playing himself. He flees from a massive hammer, only to fall face first into the violent paws of his sociopathic, enraged brother Raph. Despite the massive gap in raw punching power, Mikey humiliates his brother's empty intellect with soul-piercing taunts, leading Raph to ignore his ninja instincts and slam his own face into a colossal wall, knocking himself out like a stupid mole and crowning Michelangelo the winner by pathetic default.
The final four? And I'm out? What if Mikey actually wins? What if he becomes the battle?
Traximus wanders through the gossip-filled balcony, spreading word of a massive betrayal involving a rotten rat attacking the daimyo. Realizing they've been gift-wrapped for a satanic conspiracy, Donnie and Usagi feel the urgency. They need to blow the catacombs wide open to get their master out of there while sweating bullets as they fend off insane beasts sent to grind the final witnesses into dust. Usagi and Donatello are holding the line against the Shadow Ninjas to protect the unconscious daimyo, a secret service escort, but with swords. Meanwhile, in the arena, the Ultimate Ninja is pretending everything is fine, giving off major "this is fine, dog in a burning building" vibes. Behind the scenes, Draco and the Air are already bickering over the Mystic War Staff like two kids fighting over a remote control. You can smell the betrayal in the air. Elsewhere, Raphael and Traximus beat Splinter's location out of some goons, full Liam Neeson Taken style, and prep for the invasion. The assassins almost turned Usagi into a rabbit kebab, but Leonardo leaps in at the last second to save his friend. In the tournament final, the ultimate upset happens. Claw steamrolls Gen and is now set to face Michelangelo. Raph and Traximus go full Tarzan, invading the palace by swinging on a curtain and liberating Splinter. In the throne room, it's total chaos. The Ultimate Ninja tries to wield the staff, loses control, and Draco seizes the opportunity to steal the weapon. He attacks his former partner and rips open a black hole that starts sucking in everything in sight. Raph anchors the staff to the ground. They form a human chain, Guardians of the Galaxy style, pass the weapon to the daimyo, and finally, the portal seals shut. In the middle of the mess, Mikey's nunchaku flies solo and cracks Claw right between the eyes. Instant knockout.
Yo, Ugly! Do you think we're supposed to fight now?
With luck on par with Homer Simpson, the daimyo declares Michelangelo the grand champion of the battle nexus. But there's no time to celebrate. In deep space, a massive fleet of Triceratons is closing in on Earth, hunting the Fugitoid and bringing some serious Independence Day energy. The lights go out and Earth descends into collapse. The Triceraton fleet arrives, launching an alien invasion worthy of War of the Worlds, hitting military bases and turning New York into a literal war zone. April and Casey decide to play hero and hit the streets. Meanwhile, the Turtles realize the space dinosaurs are scanning civilians and kidnapping anyone who has ever touched Utron teleportation tech. The problem? The four brothers are glowing on the enemy radar like a neon sign in Times Square. April and Casey try a high-speed bike getaway, Fast and Furious style, but end up surrounded by the patrol. On the UN screens, General Zanramon demands the Fugitoid. Since the robot isn't on the planet, the big guys start mind-probing prisoners for clues. The Green Quartet locates April and Casey trapped in a massive force field in the middle of Central Park. Time for a tactical strike. Mikey and Raph handle the distraction, blowing up a weapons depot with a level of destruction worthy of Michael Bay. Meanwhile, Leo and Donnie stealthily take down the power generators. The shield drops, but there's a plot twist. April is gone, already whisked away. Donatello panics, running to save his friend, but takes a shot to the back. The dinosaurs drag the unconscious turtle straight into the ship and blast off, taking our resident tech genius into space as a prisoner of war. Central Park has turned into a trench, straight out of Saving Private Ryan. Casey is handing out alien weapons to civilians like they're all Rambo, while April drops the bomb bombshell. They took Donatello. At the UN, Zanramon's patience evaporates, and he delivers a supreme villain ultimatum. A gargantuan ship literally rips the city of Beijing off the ground and hauls the entire chunk of land into space. Total Avengers Age of Ultron vibes. Raph goes into stealth mode, plays dead, and knocks out 2 alien pilots. The brothers then hijack a fighter craft, and guess who takes the wheel? Mikey, obviously, piloting like he's playing GTA on a 5-star wanted level, while Raph focuses on the guns. The alarms blare, and the entire fleet comes hungry for them. Inside the mothership, Donatello is in chains. Zanramon conducts a heavy interrogation and decides to broadcast the turtle's face on every screen in the world, using him as proof that Earth is hiding the Fugitoid. In an act of desperation, humanity launches nukes, but the Triceraton shields tank the missiles like they're mosquitoes on a windshield. Left with no choice and needing to be invisible, the 3 brothers dock onto the back of a giant freighter to bypass security and land hidden inside the mothership. They dive straight into the ship's sewer system. Now, infiltrated in enemy territory and surrounded by Jurassic Park rejects, they begin the ultimate hunt to rescue Donatello. In the bowels of the alien fleet, our favorite mutants run into the jacked dinosaur Traximus and the Triceraton rebels, forging an alliance that has "bad idea" written all over it. Meanwhile, nerd Donatello is suffering under Mozart's mental probe. Desperate from the brutal psychic invasion, he screams for his sugar daddy Splinter back on Earth, who uses his spiritual Wi-Fi connection to block his son's mental torment.
I am with you. I am with you.
Completely tilted, the dictator Zanramon threatens the whole Green family and decides the best way to resolve this is to literally abduct all of Manhattan. He orders the engines to pull the island into space like a theme park claw machine. In the sewers, April and Casey are neck deep in filth, nearly drowning, and totally blind to the fact that Bishop's suits are breathing down their necks. With a little help from the rebel dinos, the brothers storm the bridge pretending to be submissive prisoners. But when Zanramon preps for the execution, they pull a reverse Uno card, flip the script, and hijack the tyrant's personal pimped-out ship. The space reptiles sabotage the systems and fire smart missiles to turn the turtles into soup. But Donatello pilots that flying bathtub to the edge of sanity, going kamikaze and slamming the ship into the machinery lifting Manhattan. The reality check hits. The Fugitoid was never on Earth. Humiliated for wasting his entire fleet hunting a ghost, Zanramon can only watch as Donnie crashes the ship into the heart of the base, blowing everything up and dropping the island back to the ground with the grace of a falling brick. The alien fleet retreats with its tail between its legs, but the cherry on top comes from the TCRI building, where a beam of light vomits out the Fugitoid. He arrives fashionably late to the party, wanting to know what he missed, proving he has the worst timing in the galaxy. With the space dinosaurs finally clearing out, the Bucket of Bolts Fugitoid decides to play martyr and tries to surrender to save the planet, but Donatello shows that patience isn't his strong suit. He solves the problem the most practical way possible and rips the robot's head off to kill the signal. Each turtle grabs a chunk of robotic scrap and they scatter across New York, playing a chaotic game of hide and seek against the Triceraton trackers. Hot-headed Raphael almost gets busted when an alien corners him, but a perfect sniper shot drops the beast onto the asphalt. The shooter is Agent Bishop, acting like a shadowy guardian angel just to keep his targets alive, stalking them like the obsessed ex. High above, Donatello has a half-star wanted level as he pilots a helicopter with his friend's talking head in his lap. Using that massive brain, he hacks Earth's satellites in 2 seconds flat and creates a fake signal so beautiful it decoys the entire alien fleet. The ruse works perfectly. The Triceratons are more lost than a blind man in a shootout and retreat. Thinking they finally earned some peace, the group meets at Binary Park to superglue the Fugitoid back together. But life has a twisted sense of humor. Before they can breathe, they find themselves surrounded by damn tanks, helicopters, and an entire army pointing rifles at them.
We have you surrounded! Drop your weapons and place your hands in the air, or we will open fire!
Bishop himself leads the siege, making it clear the aliens aren't the problem anymore. This is a talk with the government, and absolutely nobody is going back to the stinking sewers today, showing he's not playing around. Bishop KOs the Greens and drags their limp bodies, including the disabled Fugitoid, to a secret underground lab. Meanwhile, the useless couple Casey and April finally run into Splinter, and the bizarre trio sets off on a stealth rescue mission that is obviously going to go sideways. On the freezing operating tables, Bishop makes a dirty gentleman's agreement with General Blink, the supreme suit of the Federation. He hands over the robot in exchange for keeping the turtles so he can cut them open and conduct sick anatomical studies. Outside, hell is breaking loose on a colossal scale, with the Federation and the Triceratons turning the NY sky into a budget Star Wars ripoff. One of the ships crashes into the river, hitting the boat Splinter, and the humans were on, sinking them. Surviving by a miracle, they find a soggy hole that serves as an underwater entrance to the base and face a corridor packed with lethal lasers. Everything looked like a professional spy op with Splinter and April slipping through, but idiot Casey had to ruin it. He drops Donatello's staff and triggers every single alarm in the place. Despite the stupidity, they burst into the room at the last possible second, catching Bishop about to drive a circular saw into Mikey's guts like he's slicing a pizza. Furious at seeing his sons turned into scientific cold cuts, Splinter goes full aggro, freeing the brothers and taking the chance to release the jacked crocodile Leatherhead from captivity. But if you thought Bishop was just a stuffed shirt bureaucrat, you thought wrong. The bastard shows he can scrap, recapturing Mikey by pressing a razor-sharp blade to his green head, freezing the whole room in a moment of pure reality check. For now, the villain in the suit dictates all the rules of this twisted game. The tension finally explodes when Leatherhead grabs Bishop from behind in a savage, scaly sleeper hold, rubbing his brutal hide all over the secret agency's poster boy. But don't underestimate the bureaucratic villain. Bishop slips out of the giant croc's embrace and vanishes, taking precious samples of the fallen turtle's gooey DNA with him. Far from Earth, General Blank thinks he's hit the jackpot. He shoves the Fugitoid into the Federation's main system to suck out the coveted teleportal schematics, but the Tin Man was way ahead of him. He'd already wiped his own memory and now uses the intimate connection to inject a massive, deep virus into the entire network. This heavy digital load instantly crashes the Federation systems, cutting comms and making ships across the galaxy go limp at the same time. Down here, Bishop is smashing his keyboard trying to reboot the mess in time, but it's too late. Donatello takes the split-second opening to recover his inert friend. In space, the cybernetic paralysis is so severe that Commander Mozar refuses to fire on his enemies, showing that even space dinosaurs have more ethics than a split-screen screen cheater. This hilarious chaos becomes the perfect opening for Traximus to lead a violent coup and oust Zonramon from power without breaking a sweat. The intergalactic war ends abruptly, but the bill is steep. The Fugitoid's positronic brain has completely melted after dumping all his cyber juice into the galaxy, while former Supreme Leaders Blank and Zonramon end up stuffed into the same tiny cell to bicker like a bitter old couple for the rest of their days. The entire universe bows its head to honor the shiny toaster that fried its own motherboard to save the day. Back in the stinking sewer, Mikey acts like the absolute dead weight he was born to be, testing the sanity of Donatello and Leatherhead, who just want to fix a junk tube TV. Realizing the environment is about to turn lethal, Splinter drags his useless son out for a forced patrol. On the clean surface, their peace ends the moment two bizarre suits named Mr. Touch and Mr. Go enter the scene. When these two weirdos vigorously bump fists in an alley, one gets bullet fast and the other gets absurdly jacked, proving that their physical contact has massive consequences. The lethal duo begins hunting the rat and the turtle without mercy. Mikey tries to use his round shell to tire out the suited speedster, but all it takes is a little back touch from the partner to recharge the duo's energy and will to fight. Meanwhile, Raphael tries to flee some trouble and jumps straight into Mistress Morrison's house, a little old lady so absurdly blind that she strokes his green mutant muscles with glee, thinking he's just a normal neighborhood kid. When the brute discovers the poor woman is about to be evicted onto the streets of bitterness, his ninja brain starts plotting a solution. Cornered on the subway tracks, Splinter and Mikey stage a beautiful railway suicide to trick the suits. The brilliant duo takes the hero's corpse weapons and runs to a luxury hotel to collect their fee from the brute Hun. But the celebration goes south when Mikey busts into the suite pushing a room service cart, bringing a full banquet of pain. Splinter blinds everyone by spraying heavy white fire extinguisher foam across the room, and the two idiots are tossed violently through the glass window. In the middle of the ruckus, Mikey steals the briefcase full of dirty money. Instead of blowing it all on greasy pizza slices, Raphael drops the stacks of pure cash at the blind lady's door, securing a roof for the woman and her cat, revealing that beneath that angry shell beats a soft, weird heart. Communal living definitely doesn't work when you're a giant reptile loaded with experimental trauma. Leatherhead snaps in the middle of a horrific nightmare, remembering Bishop's dirty hands brushing against him. He goes into a blind rage in the middle of the living room and very nearly turns Mikey's face into green mush. Consumed by guilt and whining about being a dangerous monster, the 9-foot croc packs his gear and heads off to suffer in the darkness of the tunnels. Unfortunately for him, this dramatic isolation attracts Mr. Marlin, a loony, obsessed hunter carrying bizarre tracking gear and a shotgun he has the gall to call Betsy. Marlin is dead set on putting bullets into Leatherhead and doesn't mind including a 4-turtle combo in his daily bag limit, while the Green brothers try to follow the runaway's giant footprints and fall into the old hunter's most pathetic traps. Leatherhead simply gives up on life and surrenders like a domesticated, fearful kitten. However, when he realizes his younger brothers are also about to take a hit from Betsy, his animal instinct returns with brutal force. He lunges furiously, biting down on the long metal barrel of the gun in pure hate, swallowing a massive electric charge that shatters his teeth and knocks him cold on the concrete.
You okay, Betsy?
Marlin takes advantage of the inert body, hanging the crocodile over a dark pit with the lethal naval propellers spinning like crazy at the bottom. The brothers arrive in a desperate rush to save the night, beating the hunter senseless. Donatello shoves his long, hard staff right into the propeller's tight gap, jamming the metal with raw force before Leatherhead can become mutant mincemeat. Completely lunatic and with nowhere left to run, the hillbilly villain pulls his about-to-overload weapon, giving that tired suicide attack speech. Without a second thought, Leatherhead embraces the fanatic and plunges with him straight into the freezing water in a spectacular explosion that shakes the bridge's foundations. The group mourns at the pier in an improvised wake until the stubborn reptile pops up soaking wet, climbing the concrete pillars and surprising everyone with his refusal to kick the bucket. To prevent another outburst from breaking the furniture at home, Donatello plays interior designer and preps a custom-made abandoned subway station to be the Croc's spacious new trauma pad. The tranquility of Casey's grandmother's dusty farm lasts exactly 5 minutes before a wounded extra crawls out of the brush like a decomposing zombie. He's on the run from humanity's axe to terminate ETs, a group of paranoid extremists whose genius plan to save New York involves nuking the entire city, proving their collective IQ is comfortably lower than room temperature. While Michelangelo plays unpaid Uber driver, hauling the bleeding man to a hospital on a makeshift stretcher, Leonardo and Splinter struggle to keep the farmhouse from collapsing. Away from the dust, April faces the true final boss of any horror franchise, the mother-in-law. She stoically endures a humiliating interrogation from the old countrywoman, who possesses the sweetness and charm of a cactus lodged in one's spine. Attempting to escape this domestic nightmare, Raphael and Donatello sniff out the radioactive rednecks and locate the truck carrying the WMD. Raphael hops onto a beat-up buggy and initiates a frenzied chase, seemingly intent on running over the laws of physics as he rages down the dirt road. The team's resident nerd pulls off a perfectly suicidal leap onto the moving truck, ripping open the panel to cut the wires in a desperate bid to stop New York from becoming a giant ashtray.
Careful. Gotta get just the right... Oh! Ah! It's the wrong wire!
The enemy vehicle flips in a useless pirouette and explodes in a spectacular fireball that would cost half the show's budget, but Donatello had already reached deep inside and yanked out the heavy plutonium core with absurd ease. With mass genocide cancelled by the power of plot armor, the duo returns to the farm, where April is finally promoted from punching bag to tolerable human. The old woman declares a truce at the dinner table, proving that disarming a nuclear warhead is a walk in the park compared to surviving a meal with your boyfriend's family. family. While leaping across rooftops to burn some calories, Leonardo and Michelangelo cross paths with a grim dark cosplayer operating in the shadows, a cheap Batman knockoff. This Kevlar-clad vigilante goes by the highly original name of Nobody. He saves the reptiles from catching a face full of lead before evaporating into the night with the standard arrogance of someone who refuses to go to therapy. Following the trail of frustration, the heavy shells land in a dark warehouse where the brute Hun is brokering heavy weaponry with a suit-and-tie mobster named Ruffington. It turns out Nobody is actually an ex-cop whose life was completely obliterated by this same criminal, and now he's hunting vengeance like a rabid dog. To break the tension, Michelangelo emerges dressed as the Turtle Titan, swearing that wearing tight undies over spandex helps with intimidation, only to kill everyone in the room via secondhand embarrassment. The element of surprise goes down the drain when the green idiot accidentally pulls the hair trigger of a Triceraton blaster, blowing a colossal crater in the wall and announcing that the circus has arrived. The shootout attracts our favorite henchmen, Mr. Touch and Mr. Go, the needy assassins who have to touch each other to make the power flow. Leonardo and Michelangelo ruin the honeymoon, punching them out of physical contact until they're both left withered and defeated on the floor. Ignoring the extras, the caped vigilante pursues Ruffington until the coward tries to flee by helicopter. The two plummet together into a freezing river. A massive underwater explosion follows, but the hero emerges coughing up silt and cuffing his prey on the pier.
End of the line, Ruffington. You won't be able to buy your way out of this one.
Having witnessed this disaster on the big screen, the Shredder hurls insults at the useless Hun, while the Colonians return to the sewers with scraped knees, only to find an old rat demanding another round of physical torture. Donning his best wolf in sheep's clothing persona, the Shredder plays the billionaire philanthropist, raining down public donations to look good in the press, while Karai uses her blades to keep journalists away from the wrong drawers. Thinking they'd get 5 glorious minutes of peace in Central Park, the rat's disciples stumble into a conspiracy when they intercept a clandestine fax dripping with evidence. They soon catch corrupt cops helping the Foot Clan scrub the metropolitan area clean, packing up alien tech right under the authorities' noses. Examining the torn metal, they recognize Karai's unmistakable surgical cuts, proving the cleanup is just a dirty front to stockpile Triceraton weaponry. Deep in the lair, a junior incel-tier scientist named Dr. Chaplin desperately tries to be noticed by his armored muse. Driven by hormones, he builds an army of killer robots dubbed Amazonian blade bots, modeled exactly after Karai's face, angles, and curves. Baxter Stockman watches this weirdness while choking on his own ego, dying of jealousy over the thirsty intern, and typing malicious commands from the shadows to sabotage the giant dolls. The turtles dive into the mud, invading a shipwrecked alien vessel to blow the core before the metallic villain can bolster his arsenal. But Chaplin's steel hits the water to slice green flesh. Amidst waist-high water and plasma blasts shredding the walls, Stockman's virus breaks the system. The gynoids glitch out on top of the explosive charges, and the entire facility turns to dust, crushing the oxygen out of the room. The heroes escape the fireball by a split second, stumbling onto the wet asphalt. Karai appears on the horizon aboard a luxury black speedboat, glaring at them to ensure they aren't scorched to a crisp before calling her father to declare the coast is clear. However, the Shredder wears a foul smirk from the comfort of his sofa. The ship's detonation was the perfect distraction for him to pocket a stealth container full of mystery, laughing at the green clowns who think they won the day. At April's shop, a masked mugger tries a surprise hit, but ends up swallowing a thick piece of wood right to the face. To the surprise of 0 people, the idiot with the asphalt-level brain was just Casey Jones, fulfilling his daily quota of being an embarrassment. After this free humiliation, April decides she doesn't want to be useless in a fight and begs the turtles to train her, sending the 4 brothers into a state of post-traumatic panic as they recall the greatest pedagogical error of their lives. Cue the flashbacks. Tiny, bobble-headed versions of the green heroes bump into a whiny brat on the surface named Arnie, the favorite punching bag for sweaty hockey players. Moved by pity, the kids decide to play mentor. Leo tries to teach meditation to a kid who gets beaten up daily. Mikey suggests he scream like a choking baboon. Donatello proposes virgin tier chess strategies. And Raph, displaying his classic psychopathy, tells him to just throw the pieces into the enemy's eyeballs. The result of this impeccable training is Arnie getting crushed into the pavement even harder than before. The Master Rat discovers the clandestine operation, delivers an epic buzzkill sermon, and forbids any further flirting with the surface. Without his half-baked senseis, Arnie finds himself cornered by the gang again. But in a psychotic surge of puberty, the loser grows a spine, buries his fist in the aggressor's face, grabs a long stick, and chases everyone off screaming desperately, revealing the failure was always Casey Jones.
Go Gullah! Go Gullah! Go Gullah!
Back in the present, these four geniuses of hyperdeduction fail miserably to connect the dots and realize they are looking at the same pathetic kid. April forgives her boyfriend with a cheesy team drama kiss, and the forgotten trauma becomes just another collective laugh for the Green Squad, who prefer to ignore their painful past. The spirit of holiday hyper-consumerism invades New York, and Mikey decides to celebrate by hijacking a sleigh in Central Park for some kamikaze joyriding, until he aggressively swerves to rescue a small, furry piss factory mammal he names Clunk. While the family wastes time hanging shiny trash on a dead tree in the sewer, the ADHD reptile vanishes, completely hypnotized by plastic dolls known as Lil Orphan Aliens, intended as charity gifts for lonely children. But since the city is incapable of going one night without low-level crime, the Purple Dragons hijack the truck full of dolls. Mikey engages Christmas psychopath mode, grabs the back of the giant vehicle, and starts skiing on pure cold asphalt, shredding his legs and dodging a hail of armor-piercing bullets and lethal rockets as if it were perfectly normal. Tired of the foreplay at the back of the truck, he screams his way into the driver's seat, forces a suicidal game of chicken against the escort car, and makes the thugs brutally kiss the snow in a shameful rollover. While chaos reigns in the streets, the HQ becomes the stage for a festive bender with Usagi and the untouchable Daimyo. April publicly humiliates the mountain of muscle known as the Silver Sentry in an arm wrestling match, using the supreme power of warm cookie bribery to corrupt the superhero. Outside, the inept cops mistake the green guy behind the wheel for a common crook, forcing a frenzied chase while the delinquent apologizes over the megaphone and pulls off clandestine drifts behind curtains of snow. He lands at the orphanage, out of breath and late, but just in time to catch Splinter hidden in a fluffy Santa suit delivering the toys. Casey snatches his consolation prize, a wet kiss under the mistletoe, and Mikey closes this urban hallucination by wishing everyone happy holidays while you get fat on the couch.
Giving.
Happy holidays, everybody!
Tranquility ends. The second young angel bursts in, desperate and swearing that her brother Ryan vanished without a trace inside the financial catacombs of the Volpahart building. The turtles breach the perimeter, descending through forgotten dusty pipes until they hit a reality check in the form of an elderly caretaker. The deep pit reeks of death. From the shadows, skeletons that refuse eternal rest emerge grinning, and the old man spills the ancient tea, revealing that a space rock vomited a bizarre entity there that loves signing contracts, buying souls in exchange for executive privilege. The first idiot in the family signed the paper and cursed the entire bloodline. Due to his absolute muscular inability to solve his own crisis, the Guardian passes the headache along by driving a sharp spear made of meteor remnants straight into Leonardo's hands. Diving into the corporate depths, the slithering creature captures the brothers in claustrophobic tubes and pumps shock therapy into their minds in the most sickening ways. Leo has to dispatch a corrupted, filthy version of the old rat, while Raph settles his scores with the Shredder, only to unmask the villain and find his own hideous face. The nightmare gains texture as the monster embodies forbidden lust, trying to seduce Leo with the illusion of power, while replacing the hero's arm with a bundle of wet tentacles worthy of the worst Japanese piracy sites. Realizing the trap of viscous desire, the leader punches his way out of the trance, shatters his brother's mental cages, and collects the useless Ryan on the way out. When the creature of pure ugliness materializes to collect the inflated interest, Leo cuts the debt short by furiously burying the long metal object into the beast's eyeball. On the way out the front door, the caretaker whispers a thank you before turning into ashes scattered by the foul New York wind. However, in a cold office down the street, an innocent phone rings. A suit answers, only to hear that same dark voice crawling into his brain, making it clear that true capitalist monstrosity never dies. It just wears more expensive suits. In Shredder's Tin Can headquarters, the young intern Chaplin presents a colossal airship designed to penetrate Beijing's shield, proving that size really does matter when you're stealing an anti-gravity generator. The only tiny detail in the plan is that the entire city will plummet from the sky and crush thousands of innocents, a lethal setback that makes Karai question her career choices, while her sociopathic boss dispatches Hun and the shredded Baxter Stockman to do the dirty work. Back in the wet streets of New York, Donatello's nerd PDA suffers a virtual ghostly possession and downloads a suspicious file, revealing itself to be a lifetime backup of Professor Honeycutt. The beloved Fugitoid resurfaces as an AI thirsty for hacking systems, and the device guides the mutants straight to a Foot Clan excavation, which is ironically an ambush set by Karai. But instead of slicing the reptiles, the ninja demands help to stop the Chinese massacre, stuffing the four brothers into a tight crate and shipping them off like a lost Amazon package. Full of corporate spite, Hun tosses the crate mid-flight to test the laws of gravity, forcing Leonardo to grab Karai in mid-air as the group dives into the floating Beijing. In the city's mechanical bowels, Chaplin breaks into a cold sweat trying to shut down the lethal toy after being left for dead by the cowards Hun and Stockman. During an orgy of destruction against defense droids, Donatello shoves the Fugitoid flash drive deep into the generator's system, forcing an EMP pulse that neutralizes the power and drops the entire metropolis back to the dirt.
May actually work in our favor.
Returning to the villain's lair with their tails between their legs, the duo of idiots tries to blame the failure on the dead turtles, but the Shredder watched the whole thing on the security cams, noting perfectly well that Karai and Chaplin are alive and kicking. The heavy steel door locks the lying losers inside, and screams of agony begin to echo through the cold halls, proving once again that Shredder's HR department doesn't sign off on resignations without bloodshed. To prove his degree in geekdom is actually worth something, Donatello prophesies the coming apocalypse using donut holes and a juicy grapefruit, explaining through a mouthful of food that a cosmic planetary alignment is about to shake the Earth. The epicenter of this geological mess is a shimmering crystal embedded in an ancient underground city, so the brothers hop into the metallic shell driller and penetrate the deepest, dampest layers of the subsoil. Mid-journey, the chassis nearly runs over desperate refugees fleeing an epic flood, only for them to park right in front of the High Priest of Olyntius, the decomposing dictator of a dimly lit Atlantis. This megalomaniacal tyrant plans to harness the astral pull to rip the city from the depths and trigger colossal global tsunamis, drowning anyone who can't treading water. The ugly old man vomits thick lava monsters to prove his dominance, but their luck changes when Versalia, a local resident tired of paying taxes to a schizophrenic villain, rescues the shellheads from the crossfire. She decks the reptiles out in cool, shimmering armor and hands them thick, pointed crystal spears, pointing relentlessly at the beast's primary target, the giant crystal acting as a blue pill for the city's rocky arena. The amphibious squad invades the glowing heart of the city, turning the mystic core into an arena of absolute carnage where Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello hold back the tide of the fake mage's volcanic beasts. Taking advantage of his brother's sweaty, brutal distraction, Leonardo charges the altar and buries his crystal weapon with absurd force right into the magic rock.
Yes!
The cataclysmic impact shatters the power source instantly, sending the acclaimed crystal moon plummeting miserably back into the boiling magma, along with the sorcerer's wet dreams for the second time in history. Versalia then heads off into the burning dark to gather the less fanatical survivors, while the ninjas climb back up the sewer with an indisputable life lesson burned into their minds. Digging too deep into the earth only leads to hot, stupid problems. In the null time junction, Renette, a bored apprentice, steals the time scepter to skip weeks of detention and lands right in the turtle's laps in the middle of a water balloon war. Her boss, Lord Simultaneous, appears as a giant floating head demanding the scepter. Raphael tries to play the hero and fails, and in a panic, Renette teleports the gang to 15th century Earth. However, the signal is intercepted by Savanti Romero, a demonic sorcerer who wants the scepter to overthrow the Lord. He summons an army of the undead, and the turtles become makeshift medieval knights, mulching zombies until Romero mounts a dragon and captures Renette and the scepter. The raid on the villain's castle leads to a fight with giant mutant roaches. Raphael is swallowed whole and carves his way out of the creature in peak horror movie fashion. In the climax, Savanti is about to win when Renette hits him from behind, but the dragon cocoons and out comes Ultimate Draco, a macabre fusion of the Ultimate Ninja and Draco. Before total disaster strikes, Renette summons Lord Simultaneous, who freezes the monster and banishes Savanti to the Jurassic era. But Ultimate Draco breaks free, steals the time scepter, and vanishes into the multiverse.
Our revenge.
Lord Simultaneous! That ugly creep just stole your time.
A villain armed to the teeth is on the loose, and Renette has more weeks of dusting to do. A bitter stalemate. Karai infiltrates a high-security Agent Bishop warehouse in Mission Impossible mode, but the alarm trips and she's captured. Bishop calls the Shredder, demanding alien tech in exchange for her life. Back at HQ, Hun and Baxter are in the gutter, literally chained up. Shredder releases Hun and gives him the mission: save Karai or die trying. A resentful Baxter sends a fake distress call to lure the turtles into the snake's nest. Hun arrives smashing through walls. Bishop tries to escape on an underground train, and Hun steals the turtle's bike, igniting Raphael's fury. The chase explodes through the subway tunnels. Faced with letting the villains kill each other or saving Karai, Leonardo chooses honor. The brawl moves to the train roof. Bishop uncouples the engine and flees, and Hun still tries to cash in until a grateful Karai kicks the brute off the train. She leaves with a nod. The turtles are left with a high-tech train car as a souvenir, and the traitorous Baxter faces the consequences of poking the wrong boss. Ultimate Draco invades the lair and, using the time scepter, scatters the turtles across the multiverse. Michelangelo wakes up in a bright, cartoonish future where he meets the Super Turtles, heroic, buffed-up versions of his brothers, and discovers that April is the mayor and Casey is a pacifist politician. The question about Splinter hits like a bomb. Here, he became Sliver, a supervillain with the combined powers of all the brothers. The Super Turtles attack and are crushed. It's up to a powerless Mikey to turn the tide with his wits. He pulls a bluff, gets close, frees the heroes, and while they distract the villain, he reverses the polarity of the Doomsday Machine. The tower implodes with Sliver inside. Pulled back by the temporal vortex, Mikey asks to be remembered as the Turtle Titan, and when the dust settles, a statue stands to honor his legacy. Raphael lands in the middle of an intergalactic race, and to pay off a debt to fate, agrees to pilot for a contestant. The navigator, Methania, promises, if he wins, her temporal scientist uncle will help him get home. The rival, Tripper Nitro, cheats without shame, and the track is a nightmare of ice, giant worms, and forests full of cannibals. To make matters worse, Raph starts turning intangible, losing control at critical moments. Behind the curtain, the commissioner only cares about ratings, and Methania decides to expose the corruption live on air. On the final lap, Nitro falls into a forest trap. Raphael stops, saves his rival, and without sacrificing his honor, still snatches victory at the last second. Mission accomplished, he fades away toward the next jump in the multiverse, leaving an alien crowd jaw-dropped. Donatello wakes up in 2035, a future where the Shredder rules New York with an iron fist. The hideout is in ruins, Splinter and Casey are dead, and Michelangelo has become a bitter veteran with a missing left arm. The resistance is led by a hardened April, with unlikely allies, a wheelchair-bound elderly Hun and Baxter Stockman's brain in a jar. Donnie gathers the survivors, a blind Daredevil-style Leonardo and a one-eyed Raphael, for a suicide mission on Shredder's HQ, now a cyborg with Chirel in command. The battle is brutal. Hun and Baxter try to switch sides and are executed. Mikey falls surrounded by Karai's drones. Leo faces an aged Karai and dies, and a raging Raphael is cut down. April avenges them with a missile that takes Karai with her. Finally, Donatello sets up the checkmate. He positions the Shredder in front of a TBM, tunnel boring machine, and activates the colossal drill, mulching the tyrant. Overwhelmed by the loss of everyone, Donnie begins to vanish, leaving April alone with the hope of rebuilding the world. Leonardo awakens in feudal Japan and crosses paths with Usagi. The mission: escort the young Lord Noriyuki to the Shogun, while the villain Lord Hebi sets ambushes. Between mold ninjas and arrow volleys, the group leaps from a cliff into a river, and the journey turns into a classic infiltration, disguising themselves as henchmen to rescue Tomoe Ame and the Little Lord. In a duel with the snake, Leo maintains his dry humor while slicing through venomous lunges. As the enemy army closes in, the Shogun's troops arrive like the cavalry. Hebi flees, and Usagi draws seals on the ground, opening a portal to the Battle Nexus, the next stop in this whirlwind. At the Battle Nexus, Leo and Usagi find the palace deserted and the daimyo weakened. Gyoji reveals himself. He is Ultimate Draco, wielding the Time Scepter and the War Staff. With a snap, he freezes the heroes, turns the palace into a desert, and summons zombie warriors. In the dungeons, Splinter wakes up, takes the staff, and in a moment of pure spiritual strength, pulls Wrath, Mikey, and Donnie back to the same reality. Reunited, the family charges the villain. The clash of energy splits the creature back into Draco and the Ultimate Ninja, who begin to petrify and crumble. Lord Simultaneous appears, retrieves the scepter, and gives the Ultimate Ninja a second chance, reverting him to a child. With everything back in order, the friends say goodbye to Usagi and return home, where Casey complains about them vanishing for 10 minutes, which for them was a war for the multiverse. Helicopters drop canisters over New York City, while capsules flood the sewers. A sonic frequency drives any rodent insane. Splinter suffers, as does Leatherhead. The turtles attempt to escape in the battle shell, but Bishop takes aim, deploys gas, and knocks them all out. He takes Splinter as his prize and orders the execution of the others. Leatherhead bursts in, enraged, saving the brothers and Professor Honeycutt, leaving them to an abandoned station. At the lab, Bishop reveals his organization's lineage dating back to President Grant and introduces his perfect soldier, the Slayer, an invisible predator fueled by Splinter's DNA. With Leatherhead holding back the tide like a living levee, the brothers breach the facility while Honeycutt hacks the system. Splinter is freed, and the ensuing brawl trashes the complex. The Slayer proves to be a powerhouse, but the chaos provides cover for their escape. Bishop leaps onto a hook, vanishing into the smoke while swearing revenge as the lab sinks and explodes behind the heroes. The Shredder organizes a gala farewell and announces Karai as his successor. Casey tries to sneak in disguised as a waiter, while Mikey knocks out the guard. Meanwhile, Donatello, Leatherhead, and Honeycutt discover the villain's ace up his sleeve, a colossal starship buried beneath the mansion. Baxter Stockman, acting as a double agent for Bishop, leaks the location. Bishop destroys the launch tunnel to trap everyone inside. Saki doesn't flinch. If the tunnel is gone, the ship will simply tear through the mansion itself. Battle erupts. Hun arrives to defend his master. At mid-confrontation, Saki's armor is ripped open, revealing the ultimate secret. The Shredder is a Utron. Shocked, Hun's faith crumbles. Karai rescues her master and gets him on board. Bishop's missiles fail, the ship ascends, and Donnie is left hanging from the hatch. The brothers and Splinter jump, forming a human chain clinging to a rocket headed for deep space. Clinging to the hull, the heroes breach the ship. Stockman sabotages the shields while Bishop fires missiles from the outside. Inside, the final battle unfolds. The Shredder dons an even more terrifying suit of armor, and Karai runs Leonardo through with her sword, taking down the leader. Karai interferes before the killing blow, but the ship has become a ticking time bomb. Prepared to blow the core and take the villain with them, the heroes charge. But time freezes. The true Utrons appear, evacuate everyone, and let the ship explode empty. At an intergalactic tribunal, Chirel is tried for war crimes and sentenced to eternal exile on an ice asteroid. Karai and Dr. Chaplin are returned to Earth to face imprisonment. Yoshi's spirit finally finds peace. Justice, though delayed, is served. Exhausted and dejected, the heroes arrive at Casey's farmhouse. Leonardo sinks into guilt just as Sid, Casey's con artist cousin, shows up with a lead on their grandfather's treasure. X marks the spot. Casey tries to kick him out, but Sid pulls a Federation blaster. Before the talk ends, an SUV full of purple dragons, led by Spuds, surrounds the house to collect the cousins' debts, armed with Triceraton blasters. Barely able to stand, the group improvises. Raphael hides in a closet, while Mikey, Leo, and Donnie hunt goons from the shadows. April and Casey hold the living room. April takes Spuds down with judo, but he aims his blaster until Casey threatens to wreck the SUV. The villain, valuing cars over honor, retreats. As for the treasure, Spot wasn't a location, it was the grandfather's dog. In the barn, they find the safe, containing only donation receipts. Their grandmother donated everything to clear the family's conscience. Sid is left empty-handed, and Mikey teases Raph for missing the fight, earning a crutch to the head for his cheekiness. During a woodland retreat, Leo is still clouded by defeat. Casey asks Splinter for romantic advice and returns to the farmhouse with flowers and newfound courage. In the forest, a shooting star crashes into the lake. An alien mecha leaps out and attack, and Leonardo vents his frustration by reducing the machine to scrap.
Leo, it's over! Back off, bro!
Inside is Jana, an extraterrestrial warrior in a throne dispute with Mariah, a cheating rival who violated a sacred duel with a squad of monsters. The turtles even the odds. Back at the farm, Casey finally confesses his feelings to April. In the woods, Donatello has his moment, knocking a grenade straight into a stone monster's mouth, blowing it apart. With the goons down, Jana wins a fair one-on-one, defeating Mariah and sealing her in a stasis bubble. A beam retrieves them, and before departing, Jana gives Donnie a braid, a memento of an unlikely encounter under the Massachusetts sky. A soul-soothing rafting trip passes a decaying nuclear plant where fins break the water. They aren't sharks, they are fishmen. A dying female reaches the shore. 4 males perceive the heroes as a threat and attack. April touches the creature, enters a trance, and understands everything. She is the last female of her species, protecting the final clutch of eggs threatened by a radioactive leak and a failing dam. She dies in April's arms, and the mission becomes saving the next generation. Donatello engineers a surgical plan, distract the guards, breach the tower, and redirect the demolition charges to create a barrier against the toxic tide. On the clock, Donnie finds a giant worker left behind and can't carry him out. That's when Leonardo, breaking through his shell of self-pity, appears to pull them out seconds before the implosion. The explosion collapses exactly where intended, diverting the poison. At the bottom of the river, the eggs hatch. Leo breathes a sigh of relief. A spark of the leader he used to be begins to shine again. Leonardo shows up at Casey's with a bad feeling he can't explain. They tail the purple dragons to a high-stakes heist. Helicopters lift a train car and drop it onto a truck where Leo is hiding, a precision-engineered trap. Casey rescues his friend on his bike while, in Washington, Bishop is scolded by the president and discovers that the ultra-secret T-9581 cargo has been stolen. In the warehouse, Hun opens the crate. There is no wealth, only a regenerative monster with flashes of memory of its own wedding. It reassembles instantly, nearly devouring Leo, only retreating when a bell triggers another memory. Bishop was the best man at his wedding. Confused, it flees to a gas station. Bishop arrives by helicopter to recapture his creation. Cables snap, propane leaks, and everything goes up in a fireball. Bishop leaves, believing the case closed. But in the distance, a widow stares at a photo of her missing husband, while the creature, alive and grieving, watches from the water. An indestructible ghost of Bishop's project, an industrial park becomes the stage for ninja hide-and-seek training. Michelangelo wants to break the record for the longest disappearance, unaware that the Rat King is stalking him from the shadows. Kidnapped and bound in a boiler room, Mikey faces a sea of rodents and rips a door off its hinges to use as a shield, making a daring escape. The brothers find the trail, shifting piles of bricks and a villain with a curiously familiar fighting style. The clash leads them to a silo. The exit seals, and it starts raining rats. Leo delivers a message. This isn't about killing, it's about dominance. As the structure starts to give way, Raph punches a path out, and everyone escapes, except Leo, who stays to save his enemy from being crushed. In thanks, the Rat King attacks him on an unstable platform. Leonardo nearly plunges into a pit full of rats. Rav catches him at the last second, and Leo elbows the villain, sending him into the abyss. Back at the start, Mikey claims his record, and deep below, the Rat King survives, whispering secrets to his subjects. Leo pushes hard in training while Mikey relaxes with soda and TV. Suddenly, a portal tears open and Claw, thirsty for a Battle Nexus rematch, falls through demanding a duel. Amog, his father, arrives with troops, but the Gyoji mandates an official rematch in 3 days. Confident but rusty, Mikey undergoes mountain training under Leo's rigid tutelage, but lacks focus. Behind the scenes, Amog kidnaps the daimyo's son, forcing a fight to the death. In the ring, Claw crushes Mikey, while the blackmailed daimyo watches helplessly. Leo tracks down the captive, defeats 3 elite warriors, and saves the boy. Freed from the blackmail, the daimyo paralyzes the conspirators. In the ring, Mikey remembers his training, changes his rhythm, and topples the giant. For the final blow, he chooses mercy. A simple tap to the forehead seals the defeat. The crowd erupts, and Mikey retains his title with the Medal of Incomparable Honor, a prize he won't let anyone forget anytime soon. A rooftop training session is interrupted by an aerial battle. Raptor, a wind hero, and Mephos, his dark rival, plummet from the sky. Mephos wins and steals the crystal diadem, the key to the realm of the Avians, a race created by the ancient Olympians. Wounded, Raptor explains that Mephos plans to reactivate the invisible floating city and wage war on the world. Donatello improvises flight gear, and the team reaches the city in the clouds, guided by crystals. There, Mephos has seized the council and aimed a destruction ray at Seattle. Battle ignites among the hanging towers. While Raptor holds the villain through sheer pride, Mikey pulls off the play. He steals the crystal key. Blinded by greed, Mephos flies after it and is struck down by the city's own energy heart. With peace restored, Raptor takes his place, and Mikey, of course, makes sure to get a photo with the hero. Splinter gathers the family for meditation, demanding focus, especially from Leonardo. Water floods the lair, and they emerge under TV spotlights on the surface, with Bishop surrounding them. Casey and April rescue them in the van, sparking a chase with helicopters and missiles. The van explodes, and the tunnels seem like the only escape, until the Shredder appears with Hun, Karai, Baxter, and the dragons, massacring the heroes. At the height of despair, Splinter sits, closes his eyes, and refuses to fight. None of it is real. They are still in meditation. It's a trap by the foot mystics.
No matter. He is but 1 to our 5.
Back on the astral plane, the turtles focus their chi and shatter the illusion with a spiritual strike, waking up unharmed in the hideout. Elsewhere in the city, however, tension rises. The mystics only obey Karai because she wields the heart of Tengu, and that loyalty is a fraying rope. In need of an unlimited budget, Bishop stages a fake alien invasion with Baxter Stockman, fake flying saucers, biological drones shaped like grays, and a pyrotechnic show timed for the president's visit to New York. The turtles ruin the script by saving the motorcade, and Bishop counterattacks. The president is abducted into the stage-set ship. Donatello discovers it's all holograms and synthetic slime, and Bishop positions himself as the savior, kicking the green monsters out. The theater works. The president releases infinite funds for alien hunting, and the turtles' public image goes down the drain. The slime from the fake ETs leaks into the sewers, planting the next threat in the city's gut. Michelangelo guards his comics like relics. Raph loses at poker to Splinter, and April warns Neotech has been robbed. The investigation turns into a blockbuster when the Purple Dragons, led by Hun, attack a cargo plane in midair using sky sleds. Casey, with no shell and no sense, goes along. Inside the freighter, Hun blows the cockpit. The plane goes into a nosedive, and Casey nearly becomes a pancake, saved by one of Raphael's SI jammed into the ceiling. A flashback of his father, teaching him to do the right thing even when alone, reignites his courage. Golf bag, he screams. And yes, there's a parachute inside. They jump. Casey lands on the dragon's truck and continues the high-speed fight with Hun. At the moment of victory, he offers a hand to his enemy. Hun betrays his trust and escapes by jumping between trucks. Exhausted, Casey and Raph crash onto the battle shell. In the end, Casey visits his father's grave, certain he honored his legacy, even if every bone in his body remembers the fall. Street violence explodes as a masked vigilante emerges from the shadows. Nobody, an ex-cop who saves a kid named X-Ray from the Turks gang, and calls on the turtles turtles to take down the kingpin Jenko, who plans to eliminate an elderly witness. Donatello and Michelangelo go undercover as old folks, turning a supposed easy hit into a hilarious ambush, dealing out ninjutsu and kanifu. The chase leads Leonardo to crash the battle shell into the Turks' HQ club, where the gang pulls heavy weaponry in broad daylight. Nobody focuses on rescuing X-Ray, trying to steer the kids away from a life of crime. It almost works until Jenko appears with a grenade launcher. Nobody takes the thug down, everyone escapes before the building blows, and the police arrest the leader. Mikey insists on keeping the grandma outfit on, much to everyone's embarrassment, and the final piece appears behind the scenes. Hun is the one supplying the gangs with military tech. Meanwhile, Karai plays the benefactor by opening a library in memory of Orokusaki, while swearing revenge in her father's name, displaying the hypocrisy that rules the Foot Clan. It's Halloween in New York, the perfect night for 4 mutant turtles to walk around unnoticed. At the shop, April receives a peculiar customer who leaves a 6-armed statue for safekeeping, the self-proclaimed King of Thieves. When an alarm trips, Mikey goes down to check and finds costume burglars. He tries to stop them, but a bicycle falls from the ceiling onto his head, and the gang flees with the statue. The trail leads to a hotel, where Raph and Mikey get distracted by candy apples until Leo restores order. After breaching the wrong room and scaring an old lady, the moment of truth arrives. The king completes the ritual, releasing flying gremlins to loot the city and awakening the statue itself, now a stone colossus. The battle scales the rooftops until Donatello uses physics to topple the giant straight into the subway. On the tracks, Raph tears the creature's head off using the monster's own broken arm, and the body is demolished by a train. With the statue reduced to rubble, the gremlins vanish. The thieves are arrested, and 2 cops who look exactly like the franchise's creators give the heroes a thumbs up, suggesting they enjoy Halloween in their costumes. The mood in the lair is unbearable, and Leonardo, consumed by frustration, trains blindfolded until he destroys Raph's favorite punching bag. A sibling brawl nearly erupts when the dimensional doorbell interrupts. Usagi arrive. While the group takes a night tour of the city, an assassin named Kojima lands with a hit list that includes Leo. The next day, Gem gets lost and wanders in broad daylight, causing a panic until he grabs clothes from a shop and looks like a brute from the old days. The police surround him, tension rises, and Casey Jones rides in on his bike for a last-minute rescue, with the turtles providing a distraction. The party ends when Kojima attacks with bombs, taking down the group, knocking out Donnie, and blinding Leo with powder. It's the turning point. Leonardo, unable to see, must rely on instinct and his drive to protect his friends. Screaming from the depths of his soul, he defeats the assassin, but rejects Usagi's lessons in humility, returning home still gripped by the rage consuming him. Leonardo's rage overflows during training, and he wounds Splinter. Realizing he can no longer guide him this way, the master sends him to Japan to learn from the Ancient One. In the snowy mountains, 2 giant guardians put him to the test, and Leo's brute impetus leads to a humiliating defeat. The lesson is clear: to fight with hate is to lose.
Looks like itty bitty baby's going to cry.
The path leads him to a short, annoying, flatulent guide who leads him through a haunted trail. The test is to ignore the ghosts, but Leo insists on fighting what he cannot harm until he understands he must yield. At the summit, he faces a stone colossus that reflects his fears. As he takes a beating, he relives the trauma of the Shredder and realizes the most dangerous enemy is himself. Breaking his own arrogance, he sees his face in the monster, bows, and the fury dissolves. The guide reveals himself as the Ancient One, a master who disguises himself to test a student's patience. The true training, made of tea and wisdom, finally begins. 2 months later, a vision from the Ancient One sends Leonardo back immediately. Disaster is on the way. The lair's system is manually shut down, and the Foot Clan invades in full force, with robots and elite ninjas clearing the way for the Shredder, revealed to be Karai in the armor. The confrontation is brutal. Splinter falls before her fury, and the turtles are forced into a desperate flight. Donnie and Splinter try to escape escape by sub, but a bombardment detonates the vessel in the river. Raph flees in the armored truck, is chased by a helicopter, and explodes in the streets. Mikey runs through the tunnels with his cat, but a giant robot hunts him down, ending in another explosion. Karai ends the hunt by storming April's shop, tossing the charred Home Sweet Home sign from the sewers onto the counter. As far as she is concerned, the turtles and the rat have been annihilated. The villain's triumph is absolute, leaving only silence and ashes. Leonardo returns from Japan more serene, only to find the lair reduced to rubble and a Shrednot on guard. He destroys the robot but needs answers. On the surface, Angel delivers a pizza to April with a coded message. April pretends to complain about the order to throw off the foot ninjas, and Leo catches the response from a rooftop. Karai believes everyone is dead. Refusing to accept it, Leo scours the Hudson, finds the sub-wreckage and an empty oxygen tank, tracks footprints to a warehouse, and finds Splinter and Donnie alive and hiding. They turn a pumping station into a new refuge. Through the tunnels, Leo finds comics and cat food. Clues from Mikey, who emerges with Clunk, exhausted but alive. The final step is Coney Island, where a dejected Raph drinks soda, staring into the void. The reunion completes the circle. Then, Leo takes the war to Karai. He storms the tower, hurls the old sewer sign into the hall, disarms and humiliates the villainess, cuts her communicator and, with his blade at her throat, spares her life, offering one last chance.
One last chance to do the right thing, Karai. Don't waste it.
He leaves with Chinese takeout and a gift for Splinter. The family, resilient, is back. In the desert of Area 51, Bishop swaps bodies like clothes, keeping himself alive through clones. Baxter Stockman, believing he will be rewarded, watches the party. In New York, a worker goes into the sewer and vanishes. The alien slime used in Bishop's fake invasion has contaminated the fauna and spawned giant mutant insects. Bishop realizes the ticking time bomb and dispatches Stockman, now just a head attached to a robotic body, to contain the crisis before the government finds out. The turtles cross paths with ticks and roaches the size of cars, and Raph faces his personal nightmare. Upon finding a mutant cockroach, the transformed worker, Donnie tries to spare him and ends up taking a venomous sting. Even so, he stops his brothers from hunting the creature. Back at the hideout, the cause is confirmed. The slime accelerated mutations. Bishop's teams capture the Roach Man, but the damage is spreading. The final scene chills the blood. A pigeon opens its mouth, reveals tentacles, and swallows a human being. The plague has risen from the sewers, and the entire city is at risk. The turtles dig a tunnel to April's basement to make visits easier, just as Robin, her sister, arrives by surprise, forcing the ninjas to hide. April's computer enters a trance with strange symbols, and Donnie deciphers it. It's an SOS from Uncle Augie. Using a mystical artifact, Donnie and April teleport to a dimension where humanoid lizards rule. The counselor welcomes them with promises of peace and leads them to Augie, who is helping fix a teleporter supposedly meant to spread harmony. However, Donnie overhears the truth in a hallway. Their planet is out of food, and Earth is the next banquet. The trio flees to the Forbidden Zone, a bone graveyard where a hologram reveals the lizards devoured the Zodats, ancient inhabitants who sacrificed themselves to sabotage the portal. Surrounded, Donnie and April mount a counterattack. April pretends to help and programs the coordinates for Wasp World. They return to Earth while the lizards are sent straight into a nest of giant insects. And magnetic charges left by Donnie fry the portal on the other side. Reunited, the O'Neill family breathes a sigh of relief. Humanity narrowly escapes becoming lunch. After dealing with mutant frogs in the sewer, the turtles head home, unaware that Baxter Stockman, tired of being a walking head, has transferred his mind into a brand new clone body. Bishop warns him that the body is unstable, and the flesh begins to rot almost immediately, driving Baxter into a breakdown. Amid hallucinations of his mother and accumulated bitterness, he concludes that April is the root of his misfortunes and goes after her. He breaks into the apartment while April and Casey are watching TV. Casey tries to fight back and is knocked down. Baxter kidnaps April and takes her to the ruins of Stocktronics, the place where it all began. The turtles track the villain, and the confrontation ends on an aerial tramway over the East River, cables failing and the wind cutting through the night. In his madness, Baxter confuses April with his mother, hands her over to the heroes as if saving her, and plunges into the river. It seems like the end, but Bishop once again rescues Baxter's brain. For Stockman, there is no rest, not even in the abyss. A night trip to the Museum of Natural History. Donnie, excited about dinosaurs, doesn't expect to see a bony T-Rex come to life. Savanti Romero projects his essence into the skeleton and promises to erase the turtles from existence. The time apprentice Renee appears, clumsy as ever, and explains she needs to stop Savanti in the Cretaceous period to complete her exam. April asks to go home, and Renee, messing up the spell, sends her to the sewer with Splinter. The team travels through time, lands in the Dino era, and Donatello catches a cold that turns into a trumpet. One sneeze summons a stampede. The time scepter fails, and they are stuck. Mikey adopts a Triceratops, Zog, because that's just Mikey.
I'm gonna call you Zog. Maybe you're Zog's great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy. Zog was an alien, Mikey.
The calm is short-lived. A pack of Deinonychus attacks. A sneeze from Donnie and one of their faces scares them off, but the true danger arrives snoring. Savanti arrives riding a colossal T-Rex, ready to turn the heroes into fossils. In the Cretaceous, Zog faces Savanti's T-Rex in a primal battle while the villain attacks Renee, steals the scepter, and leaves on a pterodactyl. His plan is as grand as it is cruel. Sacrifice Renee at a bone temple, trigger global volcanic eruptions, and shift the Earth so the extinction meteor misses. Without the impact, mammals don't dominate, and humanity is never born. With the meteor already glowing in the sky, the turtles scale the temple surrounded by hungry velociraptors. At the top, Savanti appears in bone armor, and the fight begins. Donnie breaks the scepter, the ritual is ruined, and the explosion hurls everyone into the water. 3 months pass in the past, fur clothes, and castaway-style survival. Renee passed her test, but they remain trapped, until Mikey catches a monster with the scepter inside its belly. In a snap, they return to the present at the exact second they left, leaving Splinter and April confused, while the smell of prehistoric fish tells the true story. A blackout brings boredom and candlelight. Splinter suggests telling stories, and Leo narrates one he heard from the Ancient One, the origin of Splinter and Yoshi. In post-Woju 2 Tokyo, Yoshi and his friend Mashimi, 2 street urchins, are tested by the Ancient One and taken in. They train in ninjutsu, but fate turns into a love triangle. Both love Tang Shen, who chooses Yoshi. She saves a rat that Mashini tried to kill, a gesture that will change everything. When they save the businessman Mr. Mortu from Foot Ninjas, his robotic arm reveals the truth. He is an Utron, part of a millennial war against the Shredder. Mortu recruits Yoshi and Mashini as guardians, but jealousy consumes Mashini, who betrays the clan, kills Tang Shen, and aligns with the Foot. Overcome by grief, Yoshi invades the fortress, faces everyone, and defeats Mashimi, escaping through a window into the river. He takes Shen's rat with him to New York and names him Splinter.
Well, little one, I will name you Splinter to remind me of what I have done and what I have failed to do.
Back in the present, Splinter reminds them that everything is connected. In Japan, dark forces rebuke the Ancient One. The turtles' fate is sealed, and not in their favor. A disastrous date between April, ready for an extreme outing, and Casey, dressed in a suit for a fancy dinner, is aborted by an urgent call from the turtles. Donnie is sick and needs care while the others hunt mutants at a power plant. Mikey accidentally knocks out the city's power, and in the darkness of the apartment, Donnie's illness accelerates. His muscles bulge, and he transforms into an irrational beast. April and Casey try to restrain him, but Monster Dawn escapes into the sewers. At Bishop's headquarters, surgeons reconstruct Baxter Stockman into a cyborg monstrosity, reaffirming the agent's contempt for his creations. Called by April, Leo leads the team to the shop. They turn to Leatherhead, who diagnoses the worst-case scenario. The virus from Bishop's fake invasion has hybridized with Donnie's DNA, turning him into a raging mutant dinosaur. A trap is set with Mikey as bait. After an insane hunt, Leatherhead manages to cage Donnie. Splinter stares at his imprisoned son, unsure if there is a cure for such devastation. Bishop receives a holographic call. The Foot Clan possesses dangerous alien technology. In the lair, Donnie's condition worsens. Leatherhead struggles to contain the mutation, but even gas won't calm him. And the monster tries to bite Mikey through the feeding slot. Leo makes a decision. They will invade Area 51 to demand a cure from the virus's creator. The helicopter, upgraded by Donnie, leads them to a suspiciously easy infiltration until they encounter Bishop and a grotesquely reconstructed Baxter Stockman. A poisonous proposal follows. Bishop will cure Donnie if they steal an alien artifact from Karai. When the monster is brought in, everything goes wrong. Bishop orders his elimination, and Leatherhead snaps to protect his friend, but freezes upon falling into a dissection lab, reliving old traumas.
Not again.
It's up to Leo to take his brother down with tranquilizers and accept the deal. Donnie enters Stockman's tank for the cure, which depends on a near-suicidal mission against Foot HQ. While Bishop speaks with a suspicious holographic informant, Splinter and Leatherhead corner Baxter. Either there's a cure for Donnie, or someone becomes Crocodile Dinner. Baxter yields the bitter truth. Bishop lied. There is no cure. In New York, April and Casey become makeshift hackers. He infiltrates a power station as a janitor, while she commands from a distance. The virus fails. They nearly get toasted, and Casey solves it the Jones way, smashing everything until the blackout hits. With the city in the dark, the Turtles invade Karai's tower. Raph abandons stealth with explosives, while Leo and Mikey breach the Mystic's chamber and steal the amulet Bishop desires. Karai intercepts them, and Raph appears piloting a stolen mech to cover the retreat, but the elite guard destroys it. Surrounded, they call the Turtle Copter, which blasts a hole in the east wall and extracts the team with the relic. At Area 51, Bishop releases a gas that reverses the mutations across the city. Donnie returns to normal. However, the agent triggers the base's self-destruct, and they escape by a hair. At the new lair, Bishop tries to activate the amulet, only for it to disintegrate. The informant reveals himself as a foot mystic. The amulet was the only leash on them. Now free, the mystics can resurrect the true Orokusaki. Routine tries to resume. Donnie is resting, but convinces his brothers to head to the rooftops, just as 4 wooden warriors, the Mokusai no Bushi, appear. The wood regenerates, katanas have no effect, and the brothers are defeated and kidnapped. Splinter and the Ancient One sense the danger and begin their search. The prisoners wake up in open cells, their weapons floating through corridors alongside a group of humans, Adam, Joy, Tora, and Faraji, who are equally confused. Mikey wishes for an exit, and a door opens, leading to a sinister sanctuary where 4 figures in armor resembling the Utron Shredder await, the Ninja Tribunal. They announce the return of an ancient evil and propose a test, that the heroes fight each other. The Turtles and the humans refuse and attack the Tribunal. The Wooden Warriors massacre them again.
Raphael, give me a hand.
Joy, no!
It was the true test, character and unity. Approved as acolytes, they climb a magical staircase toward the deck of a dragon ship. The destination is Japan, and the tournament to save the world is about to begin. The dragon ship lands on a mountainous Japanese coast, and the group climbs to a monastery carved out of stone and legend. There, they meet the 4 masters of the tribunal: spirit, weapons, strength, and stealth, and receive amulets before a brutal training session that exposes flaws and draws harsh reprimands. Splinter and the Ancient One arrive demanding their sons back. The Wooden Warriors surround them. The tension rises, and the tribunal reveals the chess match in play. The Foot Mystics want to resurrect the ultimate evil by gathering 3 artifacts, 2 already lost, and the 3rd hidden there. Suddenly, smoke turns into a nightmare. The Fire Demon invades, dispatches the masters, razes the temple, buries Splinter and the Ancient One, and defeats the acolytes effortlessly. When all seems lost, reality recomposes itself. It was an illusion by the tribunal, a cruel but necessary warning. If the vision destroyed them, the real battle will require more than strength. It will require awakening. The day begins with the silent Hisomi Shisho and a deadly challenge, crossing the dragon bridge without a sound. Mikey falters in celebration and awakens a colossal water dragon, which Hisomi calms with a gesture. Splinter reinforces the lesson. United, they survive the tribunal. In the weapons dojo, Master Juto summons the Spirit Forge. Only those who are worthy can pull their weapon from the fire. Raph stands his ground and is rewarded. The others earn theirs, except for Leo, who extinguishes the flames upon touching the forge and leaves in heavy silence. With no time for sorrow, the group sails to the hiding place of the first artifact and falls into an ambush by Kappa demons. Mikey's stealth fails, war breaks out, and Leo, still without a weapon of his own, borrows a sword and unleashes a devastating flaming slash that saves the team at the cost of his own collapse. Upon their return, the tribunal opens the box. Inside is the Shredder's helmet, the first piece of the Apocalypse puzzle. The revelation of the helmet keeps everyone awake. Splinter, along with the Ancient One, exposes an old wound. The tribunal refused to help Yoshi against the Utron Shredder, leading to his master's death. Thus, the rat distrusts them. The turtles remind them they already sent a Shredder into space, and then the true story is told. In 300 AD, 5 warriors, the 4 who now comprise the tribunal, and Orokusaki, faced the Tengu Shredder, a demon eager to dominate the world. Saki betrayed them at the decisive moment, merging with the Tengu in exchange for power, birthing the original Shredder. To combat him, the tribunal delved into the dark arts, became avatars of dragons, and finally defeated him. Without being able to kill him, they fragmented him into 3: the body, the helmet, and the gauntlet. The Shredder the turtles knew, Sharel, was an Utron imposter, a usurper of the legend. The real danger is ancient, mystical, and immortal. Under the tutelage of Master Chikara, training becomes a test of brutality. She lifts titanic stones, turns Mikey into a punching bag for insolence, and summons Oni golems for a round without weapons. Raph and Donnie adapt, while Leo and Mikey fail and suffer the weight of expectations.
But I was focusing!
The next day, Hisomi puts them in an impossible race. No one touches the master until Mikey, in a rare moment of focus, reaches a speed that matches the silent sensei. The tide turned during Master Khan's lesson on spiritual projection. Among flickering avatars, Leo manifests a giant dragon, leaving the tribunal speechless. Strengthened, they depart for a cave infested by Nezumi rat demons, who resurrect after being struck down. When the leader prepares to devour Leo, the dragon within erupts and purifies the threat. The team returns with the Shredder's gauntlet and a sense of victory, unaware that the Foot Mystics orchestrated it all. Gathering the relics in one place is exactly what the enemy wanted. Checkmate hasn't come yet, but the pieces are exactly where the chaos needs them. Back at the monastery in Japan, everyone thinks the mission is over, but Master Khan has sinister visions of an attack by the Shredder's heralds. To protect the acolytes, Hisomi takes them to the sarcophagus chamber, against Master Chikara's wishes. Her distrust is confirmed in a plot twist. The masters giving orders were imposters. The real ones are trapped in the walls, while the fakes reveal themselves as the Foot Mystics. Even the Splinter and Ancient One accompanying the group were forged versions. The heroes, unknowingly, escorted their enemies to the heart of the temple. When the fight explodes in the sarcophagus chamber, the mystics summon 2 colossal demons, Sojo and Baku, and the battle becomes a massacre. The human acolytes fall one by one. A wounded Faraji hands his mystical weapon to Leonardo in a final gesture of courage. Joy is crushed, and Raphael's fury summons thunder to collapse the ceiling onto the monster. Despite recovering the artifacts, the villains seem infinite. The true ninja tribunal arrives but reads the defeat on the horizon. They order the turtles to flee with the artifacts. At the last second, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo, the real Splinter, and the Ancient One jump through a portal and plummet into New York. There, the sky darkens, forming the silhouette of the Shredder. Splinter gives the verdict. The end of the world begins here. Michelangelo dreams big. He wants to join the Justice Force as Turtle Titan, while Leonardo sees the hero tryouts as a strategic chance against the Shredder. In the city's underworld, Bishop and Baxter Stockman tinker with alien tech. Stockman tries to control nanobots with a pirated chip, creating a confused metallic amalgam that flees searching for family. At the Justice Force Tower, the audition has turned into a circus until the nano monster invades and sweeps the candidates.
Destroy Justice Force. You want to take down the Justice Force, you'll have to go through.
The turtles hold the line until the heroes arrive, but the creature reforms, glitched by the chip. Amidst explosions, Ananda senses the creature isn't evil, just in pain and controlled. Leonardo and Michelangelo whip up a plan. Mikey plants a hook to stall the core, while Leo destroys the chip. Free, the Colossus reveals himself as a noble golden android and is recruited by the team. Mikey is left out but returns home swearing he's now a reserve member, his self-esteem intact. The Mystic's ritual works, and the Tengu Shredder, the original demon, returns to the world, reconstructing his body and promising devastation. The turtles wake from the same dream of Karai pleading for help. The mystical connection is a side effect of the training that linked them to the villain's mind. They decide to rescue her, despite her being an enemy, because the Tengu considers anyone using his name an affront. Marching through New York, the Shredder sweeps streets and buildings with absurd power. In Donnie's tuned-up taxi, the brothers try to catch him and are nearly crushed by a cement truck. They warn Karai via radio, but she, confident, prepares the Foot Clan building to resist. An illusion. The Shredder enters and shreds Shrednauts, the Foot Elite, and invisible tech ninjas as if they were toys. Reaching the penthouse, Karai faces the impossible. The turtles burst in yelling for her to run, but the mystics surround them. The episode ends on a razor's edge. At the top of the tower, Karai strikes the Shredder, but it doesn't leave a scratch. The turtles clash with the mystics. The Earth Mystic traps them all in hardened mud until Leo, powered by the Tribunal's chi, breaks the cell. Desperate, Karai calls Chaplin. The cruel Shredder takes the form of the Utron Shredder to destroy her psychologically, turns his sword into a serpent, and Mikey, in a burst of speed, prevents the bite. The villain profanes the setting, raising a graveyard and summoning the undead. Chaplin arrives with ectoplasm blasters and clears the zombies. Karai takes an energy sword and wounds the Shredder, who regenerates, destroys the weapon, and knocks her out. Surrounded, the brothers stop holding back. They concentrate their chi and transform into mystical dragons. The Tengu's magic cannot touch them. In one breath, they incinerate the mystics. With an unconscious Karai in their arms, they retreat in the turtle copter. The Shredder lets them go. He has already conquered the tower and begins reshaping the world in his image under clouds foretelling disaster. Back at the hideout, defeat weighs heavy. To rekindle the flame, Splinter shares a memory from when the four were still mutant toddlers. On a trip to Japan to take Yoshi's ashes to the Ancient One, the children see what the adults don't, a bone demon in the bushes. At night, the creature invades the little one's room while Splinter and the Ancient One notice nothing. Upon their return, the tots notice the monster following the old man. Splinter turns back and follows him to the Ninja Tribunal Sanctuary, where the intruder seeks the Shredder's hidden artifacts. In the sacred waters, he opens a passage to the helmet and gauntlet. The tiny turtles intervene with stones. The demon turns into a three-headed chimera and charges at the adults, still invisible to their eyes. Donatello, even as a baby, hits the amulet hiding the creature. Once visible, it is defeated by Splinter and the Ancient One. The Tribunal finds them, praises them, and erases their memories to protect secrets. Before saying goodbye, the Ancient One gifts the little ones the colored masks that would define their identities. In the present, Karai wakes up in April's apartment, saved by her, while Chaplin invades and is pinned to the floor by Casey. Before he can warn them, the Shredder has begun warping New York. In the sewers, Splinter narrates recurring nightmares of an ancestral forest where the Tengu hunts and kills his sons, and even Yoshi's spirit. Mikey mocks the Made in Japan fear, but April's call summons them all to the roof. On the streets, the horror is visible. Crimson skies, the dead emerging, buildings corrupting. The Ancient One clarifies, the villain is shaping reality. At the meeting, Splinter points out fluctuations in the mystical ley lines. April maps the convergences, and Karai recognizes the keystones. If they want to stop global dominance, they must hit them before the Shredder completes the ritual. The apocalypse has taken the city. A wounded Karai admits to feeling a mystical bond with the demon. Knowing they cannot win alone, the brothers gather enemies and allies. They rescue Bishop and Stockman in the nick of time. Raphael pulls Hun and the Purple Dragons from the brink of death, and they add the Justice Force and the Ninja Tribunal. In the sewers, Leonardo defines the plan. Separate the Shredder from the artifacts while Karai drains his energy. Casey stays behind to protect April. The rest head to the fortress. Outside, super beings hold back waves of demons. In the throne room, the Tengu mocks the unlikely alliance. Coordinated attacks distract the monster, and Karai begins the drain. For a second, it seems to work. Then comes the reversal. The shredder inverts the flow, sucks the life from Karai, grows into a kaiju, and explodes with power, blasting everyone outside. They fall into a forest, stunned, and watch the Colossus leave the tower mounted on a dragon. The impossible just got worse. The end arrives like a roar. The shredder descends to execute Splinter, but from the brothers' medallions, the spirit of Yoshi erupts. He seizes the villain's trident and opens an energy rift in the armor. To recover, the Tengu pulls back his magic, briefly returning normality to New York before turning into a titanic dragon. The four respond in kind, assuming dragon forms in midair, but the enemy's power is still overwhelming. Karai tries to suck his strength and is nearly destroyed. Returning to human form, the villain faces the four in a final charge. The brothers, in unison, dismantle his defense. Throws, strikes, separating the armor. Mikey, in a raw impulse, crushes the gauntlet. Leo smashes the helmet without artifacts. The Acolyte's amulets release Yoshi's final flame. He raises the blade and cuts the Tengu's essence, erasing him from existence. Yoshi and Splinter exchange a silent goodbye, and the spirit dissipates. The Ninja Tribunal appears to explain the paradox, allowing the evil led to the journey that created them. With the balance restored, they move on and invite the Ancient One to leave with them, closing the mystical chapter. A fight over the remote control turns into a cataclysm when a blue flash swallows everyone. The sewers disappear. They wake up in a futuristic junkyard, weaponless, and climb to the surface to face New York City in 2105. Neon, aerial traffic, chaos. A truck of Triceratons passes, now delivery guys, and an impetuous Mikey jumps aboard and is accidentally carried away. The rest try to follow, lacking proper air and dealing with different gravity, until the law appears. Constable Biggles classifies them as illegal aliens. Rescue arrives in a flying limousine. Serling, a robot butler, takes them to the penthouse of Cody Jones, heir to O'Neill Tech and great-grandson of April and Casey. A devoted fan, Cody confesses. He pulled the turtles through time with the time window, which broke with no way back. While they get masks and gadgets, Mikey falls into the hands of the Street Phantoms, an intangible gang planning to sell him. In the hover shell, Cody pilots and learns on the fly, while Splinter teaches them to strike with the right timing when the enemies materialize. The leader is run over in a daring rescue, and the realization is simple. The future promises non-stop action. The luxury of the future doesn't mesh with the turtles' morning chaos, and an attempt to start the time machine ends in an explosion. Enter False Smiles. Darius Dunn, Cody's uncle, poses as a benevolent guardian, but exudes corporate villainy. At night, Cody and the brothers invade O'Neill Tech to scavenge parts, unaware that Darius releases the Gungeon, bird warriors controlled by pain chips. The aerial attack brings down the hover shell, which separates into emergency mode. Inside the company, a mental printer materializes weapons. Mikey invents a giant Mikeytron 6,000 inches armor that glitches at the worst moment.
Incredible! This armor is falling apart?
At the Empire State Building, the Gungeon kidnap Cody, and Raphael saves him in a freefall by a hair. When Leo corners the leader and nearly extracts the truth, Darius appears, freezes the warriors in stasis, and poses as a savior before the police. Back at HQ, suspicion grows. To soften the fiasco, Mikey gets energy nunchucks and nearly blinds Serling in the process. Cody's holographic dojo becomes Leonardo's personal playground until a sentient virus, Viral, awakens in a power station and hacks into the penthouse. Splinter, Leo, Raph, and Mikey find themselves trapped inside the dojo, which glitches into an Old West simulation populated by hostile cowboys. Outside, Viral possesses Serling and hunts down Cody and Donatello, demanding O'Neill Tech access codes while threatening to delete the trapped turtles. Donnie comes up with a radical plan: kill the power to the entire block to force the villain into local hardware. The tactic works. The Western simulation collapses, but Viral manifests as a heavy combat mech inside the dojo. Now that the enemy has a breakable body, the turtles smash it to pieces and kick it down the elevator shaft. In the darkness, the weakened villain crawls back to her master in the shadows, Shokunabo, the mastermind behind the hunt for future secrets. Bored out of his mind, Raphael drags Leonardo to a 22nd century wrestling match. The show is sterile and non-contact, irritating the hot-headed turtle until order breaks down. Triple Threat, a three-headed two-headed mountain of a mutant, storms the ring for some real aggression. Raph gets trapped in a laser cage and accepts the challenge, only to be tossed around like a rag doll. The villain steals the championship belt and the night's earnings, escaping on a giant unicycle. The brothers give chase through the skyline. Raph leaps midair, sabotaging the controls and forcing a crash. On the asphalt, the fight turns into a struggle for survival until Leo steps out of the taxi. Together, they force Triple Threat's three heads to collide, knocking him cold.
I see sparkles! Oh, pretty! That's it!
Constable Biggles arrives just in time to issue a fine and ruin the glory. Back home, Splinter asks, "How did it go?" But the smiles on the news reports already say it all. Michelangelo has turned into a gaming zombie after a 47-hour Helix marathon, dragging Cody to the midnight launch of Helix 2, with Starly playing third wheel. While the mall buzzes with excitement, Jammerhead and the Street Phantoms jam the signals and hijack the game's delivery trucks. Mikey, who ninja stealthed his way to the front of the line, spots the heist and tries to intervene but gets captured. The villains broadcast a deep fake on the big screens, framing the turtles for the crime. Time for reinforcements. Cody dons his secret project, the Turtle X armor, and dives into a high-speed highway chase. The crooks jump gaps and slick the road with oil, nearly sending the heroes' cars over the edge until Cody catches them at the last second. The fight moves to a cloaked ship. A hack disables the armor's controls, but Raph solves it with an explosion. In the climax, Cody holds up a dangling semi-truck with sheer strength. The weight is too much. Mikey convinces him to let the cargo go and save his own life. Biggles clears the heroes' names. Mikey swears off gaming for good, and 5 seconds later, he steals the copy Starly bought for herself. In the future, the old foe agent Bishop resurfaces as the president of the Pan-Galactic Alliance and offers a contract: capture the slippery mercenary Zix. After being outsmarted by a giant imposter in an alien bar, the turtles chase the real Zix to a lunar launch base, where he attempts to ship a mysterious package. The confrontation reveals a horror. The package is an organic bomb serving Shokanabo. Zix claims he was double-crossed and helps eject the ship into deep space before the blast, which unfortunately destroys a key Earth defense satellite. Bishop congratulates them for saving the passengers, but warns that the breach has left the planet vulnerable. Zix, ever the escapist, slips away in his own ship. In the shadow of the security failure, a sinister vessel enters orbit undetected. On board, Shokanabo smiles over a clutch of alien eggs, ready for his next move.
It proved to be.
Shokanabo prepares the enigmatic Day of Awakening while Viral stands by. In New York, a friendly spar in the dojo turns into a trip to an underground cinema to educate Cody on horror classics. With the house empty, Shokanabo invades the penthouse, ambushing Splinter during meditation and subduing him. After forcing Sterling to reveal the ninja's location, he heads to the theater and begins the hunt. Leo vanishes into the shadows, Wrath falls into sticky ooze, and Donnie is snatched away, all taken for interrogation. Mikey tells Cody to run, but the villain reveals his monstrous true form. Before the final blow, the roof explodes. Cody, in the Turtle X armor, bursts in. The fight is fierce. The alien is resilient, but the arrival of Biggles' police force forces a retreat. Cody pays for the damages and saves his skin, while Shokanabo escapes with turtle DNA samples. One question remains: what exactly is the Awakening? At a 20th century pop culture flying museum, Mikey goes hungry looking at prop food, but gets a massive ego boost seeing a Justice Force comic starring the Turtle Titan. Triple Threat invades to rob the place, but when a visitor falls, it's not Mikey who saves her. It's a new Turtle Titan, high-tech and charismatic, who even stabilizes the museum with anti-gravity technology. The crowd goes wild, and Mikey fumes with jealousy. He calls the imposter out for a showdown. Biggles almost gets scrapped in the crossfire and is saved by the duo. Their spout is sidelined when Triple Threat robs a bank. At the hover skating rink, Mikey activates zero gravity, turning the fight into controlled chaos until the pair synchronizes a finisher, knocking the villain out with a sculpture. Atop a skyscraper, the truth comes out. The new hero is the Silver Sentry's grandson, powerless but inspired by the legendary turtle titan of the past. Mikey softens, hands back the symbolic mask, and passes the mantle, satisfied to be the inspiration. To fix the time window, the team needs Donatellium, a metal only found on the moon. Darius Dunn, watching from afar, sends the Dungeon Squad, controlled by pain-inducing chips, to eliminate them. In space, an ambush rips Cody's ship apart, forcing an emergency pod landing on the lunar surface. With oxygen running low and personal force fields failing, the heroes race through tunnels while hunted by the winged warriors. The group gets separated. Raph grinds his teeth at Mikey's puppet jokes, and Cody falls into the crosshairs of the Gungeon leader. In a chamber that begins to flood, Donnie and Cody are pinned under debris. Seeing the ninja's courage, the Gungeon leader defies Darius's orders and helps the rescue, holding back the torrent so they can escape. The lunar water shorts out the control chips, freeing the warriors, who depart with honor. Back on Earth, Darius snarls over losing his pawns, but smiles. He's hacked the systems and stolen the time window blueprints. A golden alien orb begins jumping from body to body across the city, swapping consciousnesses. Jammerhead gets his hands on it and aims high. The O'Neill Tower Gala, attended by Darius Dunn, the Turtles, and Cody. Possessing a reporter, the villain tries to jump into Darius's body, but Mikey gets in the way and becomes the host, then Leonardo, until Jammerhead finally inhabits Darius. Deep within the tower, the heroes discover a secret weapons lab, a betrayal of O'Neill Tech's pacifist legacy, before facing their uncle in a brutal power suit. The battle unfolds with the villain's mind flickering between bodies, eventually taking Cody and nearly detonating everyone. The chase hits the streets, with Jammerhead's original body waiting. When the who is who confusion threatens to break them, Donatello takes a gamble. Shocking Leo exposes the imposter, and he crushes the orb, frying the criminal's consciousness. The police arrive and Darius escapes using the excuse of weapons recycling. Cody leaves more suspicious than ever. In Shokanabo's lab, a pigeon is infected and mutates into a purple monster. It flies to a hot dog stand where a starving Mikey devours the contaminated snack. At home, his appetite turns to horror. He vomits purple ooze and transforms into a tentacled Kanabo drone, escaping to spread the virus. Leonardo is the next to succumb. While Splinter and Donnie try to contain the mutated Leo, Raph and Cody track the source to the hot dog stand's basement, now a nest of aliens. Shokanabo reveals himself, celebrating his plan to use Earth as a feast. When Cody himself begins to turn, a life-saving discovery is made: sunlight. Raph and Cody smash down the walls, letting the sun in. The natural radiation acts as an antidote, melting the drones and reverting the family back to normal. The villain retreats, collapsing the structure to erase his tracks. The Day of Awakening failed, but his hunger for Earth only grew. Tired of losing, Darius strikes a deal with Shokanabo, shadow clones of the Turtles, to hunt the originals. While Cody trains to be more than just the gadget guy, Darius sets the bait. A surprise leads the heroes to a warehouse where the Dark Turtles, gothic, brutal versions of themselves, emerge. Giant magnets strip them of their weapons, and a beating is inevitable. The originals are captured. With his friends missing, Cody and Splinter turn detective, following leads to the Abrox Abyss lair. The Master clears the way with brute force. Cody uses his wits and smoke bombs to free the prisoners in the sewers. Rearmed and on equal footing, technique overcomes brutality, and the clones retreat, collapsing tunnels to cover their escape.
I had a few more gallons of fist to unload on those chumps.
Upon their return, Darius plays the Saint, claiming the surprise was just a rare comic for his nephew. No one buys it. In the shadows, he pays Shokanabo anyway. The alien is now decoding the stolen secrets of the time window. The alliance between the corrupt tycoon and the intergalactic monster has never been more dangerous. In Cody's museum, the brothers slack off on their chores until Mikey and Raph stumble upon a relic, an old journal written by April and Casey, detailing everything that would happen to them once they return to their own time. Cody and Splinter arrive, confiscating the book and warning that reading life spoilers brings bad luck. That night, curiosity wins. Mikey opens his section and finds a chaotic, comedic future. As a full-time hero, he accidentally turns an entire superhero league into babies, leaving April and Casey to run a super daycare. Leo reads a drama. Training with the Ninja Tribunal and haunted by visions of betrayal, he attacks Karai thinking she's the new Shredder, only to realize he interrupted a purification ritual and is banished from the tribunal forever. Donnie finds a techno nightmare, co-founder of O'Neill Tech and hero of the energy crisis. He suffers a space accident and has his brain placed into a robotic body identical to Serling by the Utrons. Raph suffers a personal castaway scenario. Stranded for 3 years on an island with Casey, he returns to a world of climate chaos caused by Darius Dunn, with April married to someone else and humanity living underground. As the mood turns grim, Donnie finds plot holes. Splinter and Cody reveal the prank. The journal was a fake, designed to teach them not to force destiny. Everyone is relieved until the final frame shows Cody, alone in his room, reading the real journal and smiling in the dark. At Madison Square Garden, the quintet geeks out at a gaming convention over the Gaminator, the world's most powerful console. In the shadows, Viral resurfaces and travels through the network toward Shokanabo's ship. Hours later, a Gaminator prototype arrives at the loft. When the turtles hit start, their minds are sucked into the game, leaving their bodies frozen. Cody tries to touch his friends and gets a shock. Only Serling is immune. Cody plugs the butler into the system, and he becomes a rescue avatar. Donatello finds a glitch, and the team escapes their cage into the first level, an acid marsh with giant mosquitoes and a snake version of Viral. They advance to a futuristic metropolis to face Viral as a 50-foot boss. From the outside, Cody begins to cheat, sending in upgrades and weapons. The villain activates God mode, and her health bar fills endlessly. Seeing things go south, Cody has a brainstorm. He programs infinite lives for the heroes. Suddenly, an army of Leos, Raphs, Mikeys, and Doms floods the screen, causing a system collapse. A shell DDoS, Viral crashes, and is booted out.
Yes! All right, she's bugging out. Good riddance to...
Cody brings their minds back, and Mikey and Raph, for a final laugh, toss poor Serling back into the game, leaving him surrounded by infinite laughing turtles. In the dojo, Splinter sets a challenge: carry a full cup of water through an obstacle course intact. Leo, Raph, and Donnie complete the mission and earn a promotion to Chunin. Mikey, late and sporting dark circles from a gaining binge, is put on remedial training. He begs for a second chance, and Splinter grants it. His nunchakus have been disassembled and scattered across the city. First test, a junkyard with Leonardo standing guard. The lesson is invisibility. Mikey uses a hubcap to reflect light into his brother's eyes and snatches the piece unseen. The second is at Madison Square Garden, protected by 2 virtually indestructible virtual hockey box, while Raph narrates the humiliation over the speakers. Instead of force, Mikey cracks yo mama jokes, or yo motherboard jokes. Since the bots have emotional chips, they get offended and start brawling with each other, clearing the path. The final stage is in the virtual dojo. Donnie tells him he must destroy what holds him back. Surrounded by consoles, every broken game turns into a new monster. Seeing his reflection in a mirror, Mikey realizes the enemy is his own laziness. He smashes the mirror, grabs the last piece, and instead of a pizza party, he asks for more training. Splinter smiles. The true test was humility, and Michelangelo just passed. In the year 2005, a man drops off a package with a bizarre order: deliver this in 100 years. In 2105, Serling drops the box on the table marked open immediately. Mikey ignores it as physical spam. Meanwhile, Darius Dunn and Shokanabo finish a bootleg time window that tears the fabric of reality. Rifts sweep the city and separate the team. Raph and Mikey fall among dinosaurs. Leo and Cody land in 1993, amidst the Turtles' first war with the original Shredder. Splinter and Donnie watch in shock in 2005 as their own origin unfolds. The TCRI truck, the blind man saved by a boy, the flying canister, the bull, the ooze, the sewer. Donnie wants to intervene, but Splinter holds him back. Messing with this invites a paradox. Thinking fast, Donnie draws a beacon for the time window, writes simple instructions, and sends the letter via mail. 100 years later, Mikey and Raph finally open the forgotten package and find Donnie's plans.
Holy! It's from Don! Him and Master Splinter sent it 100 years ago! Dear Mikey and Raph.
Using some percussive maintenance, they fix the machine and rescue everyone. The portal to 2005 opens. The way home is finally there, but Shokanabo is about to crush Cody. The choice is hard and immediate. Save their friend and destroy the villain's ship, losing their window, or leave. They stay, they win, and they accept the price. Stuck in the future, with a clean conscience, Jammerhead, leader of the Street Phantoms, is paralyzed in Rikers. His gang breaks in, recovers his body, and performs a high-stakes reboot. At the penthouse, a visit from Starly's family turns into social chaos. A critical mother and a clumsy brother who breaks half the lab. Jammerhead's reboot is too successful. He instantly downloads the techniques of the world's greatest martial arts masters onto a neural chip and invades O'Neill Tech for revenge, crushing Donatello with humiliating ease. The villain interrupts a family dinner with a bazooka, while Splinter, Cody, and Starly hide the visitors in a hangar, pretending it's a guided tour. The brawl takes over the building. 3 turtles are blown out the window of the skyscraper, and Raph saves them at the last second. In the hangar, Splinter faces Jammerhead as an equal, but the ace in the hole comes from Starly. She hacks the chip's signal and replaces the masters in the database with videos of her clumsy brother tripping. In a blink, the super fighter becomes a walking disaster. Raph finishes him with a haymaker. Back in prison, karma does its job when Jammerhead drops his tray on the toughest guys in the mess hall. An alarm at O'Neill Tech reveals the usual suspect, Zix, the slickest mercenary in the galaxy. The turtles arrive, attack a hologram, and watch the real Zix leap onto a getaway ship. A chase to the spaceport ensues, and by hitching a ride on the hull, the team becomes stowaways on a freighter. Inside, Zix swears the cargo is humanitarian aid for Bellerophon. Triceraton pirates appear, and the heroes, paradoxically, must defend the thief. Leo and Mikey hold off the invaders inside while Raph and Donnie perform repairs on the hull in a vacuum under enemy fire. Donnie tries to hack. Raph resolves it his way, a wrench to the panel and a manual short circuit. They defeat the pirates, reach Bellerophon, and deliver the cargo. Then the plot twist hits. The contact orders the food and medicine thrown away. He only wants the boxes. Donnie's scanner goes off. The packaging is made of a rare explosive. Zix used the heroes as bomb mules, disguised as charity. When they go to corner the rat, they find another trick. It was another hologram. The real Zix, of course, never even left the planet. On the rooftop, Cody takes a beating from Leonardo while learning to be like water. Wear out the enemy by letting them hit the air. Donnie reminds them that Splinter has an unmissable appointment, a soap opera at the museum, and Cody uses the downtime to investigate O'Neill Tech. He catches Darius Dunn cutting a deal with boss Zuko to sell illegal weapons and calls the police. But when they arrive, the factory has vanished, replaced by an orchid garden. Darius feigns innocence and grounds his nephew. The turtles set up a stakeout and see goons carrying orchids that are actually laser rifles. Upon invading, they find the trick. Phase-shifting bracelets allow 2 rooms to occupy the same space. 1 click, and the factory reappears.
2 different rooms to occupy the same space.
Darius enters his megasuit and separates Cody from the ninjas with a barrier. In the ring, the heroes face the Dark Turtles. In the office, Cody faces his own uncle in power armor. Donnie takes down the Dark Leo clone with a forklift, while Cody takes a deep breath, remembers the lesson, and becomes water, dodging and stalling until Darius drains his entire battery, powerless. The villain falls, and Cody fires him from the company. Darius flees, vowing revenge. The secret is now public. Cody's surprise party evaporates when Starly calls in a panic. Turtle X has gone rogue, armed itself, and is firing at everything. The team rushes in the hover shell, but the mech is waiting with heavy fire. The fight collapses a bridge, burying the robot, but not for long. It's discovered that Turtle X is under the remote control of Darius Dunn, hidden in an underwater lair, and wearing a motion capture suit. Every punch he throws is replicated by the mech. The robot emerges from the rubble, kidnaps Cody, and dives into the depths. Raph and Splinter track the signal to the riverbed base, while Donnie and Starly race to program an antivirus. Down below, Raph solves it Raph style. Ace through Darius's console shorts the system. However, Turtle X enters self-destruct mode with Cody inside. With no time left, Serling hardwires himself into the mech and uploads the antivirus manually. Cody is saved and Serling fries his own circuits in the process. 5 minutes later, he's repaired and grumbling again, while Cody starts training at a brand new Turtle X. To clear his head from the paperwork Darius left behind, Cody enters the team in the O'Neill Tech International race. The hover show is tuned up, and Raph insists on bringing his classic motorcycle, becoming the target of jokes from the prodigy Falcon, who soon bonds with Donatello over engines. At the starting line, Triple Threat releases a microbot that sabotages the hover shell, nearly sending it into the grandstands. Donnie saves it with a grappling hook, and Falcon helps fix it, joining as co-pilot. The race turns into a real-life Mario Kart. The villain hacks other competitors' vehicles and uses them as battering rams, pushing the hover shell off track and triggering an avalanche that buries half the cars. To guarantee a win, he kidnaps Falcon and speeds toward the finish line. Raph, without a car, mounts his useless bike and proves the opposite in a breathtaking chase. On the final stretch, the hover shell reappears. Donnie hooks Triple Threat's tank, and Raph leaps from his bike, rescues Falcon, and crosses the line first. Constable Biggles arrests the villain, and Falcon learns to respect a two-wheeled classic. A nightmare creature crashes a diplomatic conference during a standoff between Bishop and the Turtles. Leo drops a chandelier, electrocuting the monster, a temporary victory. Outside, the aberration returns larger, dragging everyone out of Bishop's limo into a chase through Central Park and taking the kidnapped agent underground. In a secret loud, the truth comes out. Those things are organic Mausers, the result of old genetic experiments by Bishop in partnership with Baxter Stockman. A flashback reveals the accident that separated them, and how Bishop, saved by an alien, changed sides to join the Pan-Galactic Alliance. In the present, Stockman himself appears, more cyborg than man, commanding 3 giant Mausers. Resentful, he wants to swap bodies with Bishop, a macabre Freaky Friday. Donnie detects the monster's sonic control and uses his staff to generate a frequency that scares them off, but the ceiling begins to crumble. Amidst explosions, Stockman is pinned. Bishop, instead of fleeing, goes back to save him, proving his redemption. Later at the Alliance, he promises to rebuild his old rival's human body and use their science for something useful, like agriculture. Raph just watches, stunned, as 2 ex-villains sign a truce for the day. At their lair, the Dark Turtles fight over a chicken leg until Darius Dunn arrives in his armor to deliver a lecture and a beating. New mission: destroy the originals. Dark Leo, however, has a subtler plan. The attack on Cody's penthouse is brutal, and at the height of it, Dark Donnie points a laser at the boy. Dark Leo throws himself in front of it, takes the hit, and falls unconscious. The others flee and leave him behind. The Turtles taken in, despite Raph's gut feeling that it's a trap. Weeks pass. The clone fakes redemption, and Leo, ever patient, shares the fable of the scorpion and the frog. When he releases him to reflect, Dark Leo disables the force field and calls his brothers to invade the base. But the original Leo expected the betrayal. When the Dark Turtles burst through the doors, they find the heroes ready. Defeated, they retreat. Back at their lair, Darius throws meat at them like stray dogs. Dark Leo divides it into 4 equal portions, and while not exactly becoming a good guy, learns the only rule he respects: family first. Mikey is narrating an adventure with toys when a real Gungeon crashes into the room pleading for help. His warriors are missing. The team heads to space and stumbles onto the ship of Aram Zato, an obsessive collector who turns living beings into rare additions. Within seconds, everyone is shrink-wrapped and vacuum-sealed like action figures on a shelf. They break free but fall into an arena against cute but deadly Dokepals and legions of Packerbox. Wrath goads the boss into a duel, and Aram Zato accepts, inside a giant mech, cheating. The tide turns when the heroes exploit the villain's obsession. They convince the system that the rarest item in the universe is Aram Zato himself. The AI glitches, invades the arena, pulls the collector from his mech, and seals him in a blister pack. Donnie reprograms the pack bots to free all the prisoners, and the Gungeon take the ship to return every species to its home. Proof that if you treat lives like trophies, you might just end up part of the collection. Bishop lands at the penthouse with grim news. Shokunabo has seized the lunar base and captured the atmospheric defense grid to blot out the sun and plunge Earth into eternal night. Splinter and the Turtles accept the space mission. Cody is advised to stay behind. Advice Mikey interprets as a veiled invitation. Before takeoff, Bishop hands out solar grenades. On the moon, Viral has already alerted the boss. The ambush closes in, and Leo calculates. Surrendering now means access to the villain's monologue and a window of opportunity. It works. While Shokunabo gloats over his plan, Turtle X, piloted by Cody and Serling, drops from the ceiling to free the prisoners. The team splits up, Donnie and Raph to hack the shutters and bring the light, Bishop and Cody to delete Viral, Leo and the others to hold off the big boss. Viral tries to possess Turtle X, but Cody runs an anti-malware program and wipes her out. With the shutters open, sunlight floods the base and fries the drone army. Weakened, Shokunabo still rages until Raph shoves a solar grenade down his throat. The villain explodes from the inside, and Earth gets back to tanning in peace. Zix tries to swindle crustacean mobsters in a space bar and ends up in handcuffs. The turtles receive his distress signal along with an astronomical ransom demand and fly to the lunar base. It was bait. Zix, now free and easy, swears that an invisible dark matter meteor will strike Earth in 24 hours, and the only way to save it is to steal a matter transmitter from boss Zuko on Saturn. They even hijack Bishop's ship for the good deed. The next double cross comes fast. Inside Zuko's lair, Zix hands the ninjas over to a Triceraton to pay off an old debt. Hours later, Zix appears in their cell to save them, claiming the betrayal was just theater to access the vault. A frantic chase ensues with lasers flying, and they escape with the transmitter. At the crucial moment, Zix offers to install the device on the meteor and vanishes in a cloaked ship. There was no meteor. The tall tale was a smokescreen to steal the tech, but Donatello plays the final card. During the repairs, he swapped the transmitter for a soda machine. When Zix delivers his treasure to the lobster mobsters, the ruse explodes. He runs for his life to avoid becoming dinner, and the heroes head home with a clear conscience. And the real transmitter. Viral has survived, hiding within Serling's hardware, and chooses the perfect moment to return. The day Cody and Donnie finish the time window to send the brothers back to 2005. Amidst tears and hugs, they enter the portal without their futuristic gear, and Viral leaps from the robot to infect the system. Instead of New York, the ninjas land in the Jurassic period, where Mikey rides a Triceratops and tramples a T-Rex. The villainess strikes again, tossing the group into the Middle Ages, where swords and armor offer little comfort to unarmed mutants. Donnie remembers a program that almost deleted Viral, still buried in Serling's archives, but he needs the enemy to send them to an even worse time. Using Mikey's silver tongue, they are dropped into an apocalyptic future where 3 Shredders duel: the Utron Shredder, the Tengu Shredder, and a new Cyber Shredder. Splinter manipulates the fight to expose Utron technology, which Donnie uses to hack and reboot Serling Turtle X's battle mode. In a rapid sequence, Donnie takes down all 3 Shredders and attempts to delete Viral, but she seizes control of the mecha and fires the decompiler. Splinter throws himself in front of the blast and is disintegrated into data, saving his sons. The portal spits them back into the present without their master. A fractured Viral flees into the web and invades a Foot Clan data vault. An ancient virus infects her, rewrites her code, and from the digital wreckage, the true Cyber Shredder is born. The heroes' mourning begins alongside their worst nightmare. In an alleyway, a man is taken down by a bow staff. In the lair, the team is still mourning the loss of Splinter, when a dark warrior invades their home, taking everyone down with terrifying skill. The mask falls. It's Casey Jones, followed by April. The reunion warms their hearts, but Casey, now disciplined and punctual, rushes off to class. April admits this militarized Casey is weirder than an alien. Donnie locks himself in the lab, obsessed with finding digital traces of their master. Leo, Raph, and Mikey follow Casey to a dojo and find Master Khan, a survivor of the apocalyptic future, posing as a sensei. Using a mystic gong, he hypnotizes students to create an obedient army. Upon detecting the turtles, Khan turns the mat into a battlefield, and the heroes must protect the kids while being pummeled by Casey in Berserker mode. Through blows and pleas, they manage to snap him back to his senses and bring down the dojo, burying Khan under the rubble. Back at the base, hope is reborn. Donnie picks up Splinter's voice trapped in a data cube, whispering, "My sons." However, in the debris, Khan rises alive and gazes at the image of the Cyber Shredder, a sign that the Dark Alliance has only just begun. Fueled by coffee, Donnie locates the source of Splinter's signal. Their father exists as fragmented files scattered across the internet. He builds a cyber portal, digitizes the team, and leaves Serling to guard the real world. Inside the web, the world is a sea of neon and code. Heaven for Mikey, unsettling for Raph. There's no time for sightseeing. The Cyber Shredder appears, a hybrid of Viral's remains and Foot Clan code, and tries to delete Mikey from existence. Donnie hurriedly teleports them to a place so dull it's safe, an accounting program. There, he equips everyone with cyber armor and defines the mission. Collect the 3 remaining Splinter fragments while holding off the enemy. The clash turns into a frantic video game. Raph teleports, Mikey goes invisible, Leo delivers flying kicks, while Donnie absorbs the Master's data into his own armor. At the last second, he opens the portal and drags his brothers back. They crash land on top of Serling, stumble back to reality, and save a piece of their sensei on the hard drive. The Cyber Shredder now knows the door between worlds is open. The digital war is officially declared. Raphael accompanies Casey to Chinatown for the most stressful mission of his friend's life, buying an engagement ring. Mr. Sun slides a shimmering ring onto the customer's finger and sends them on their way. The purple dragons try to steal the jewel en route, but they end up with a fake. Casey finds his courage. He proposes to April. She accepts, and the ring of yin, begins to glow. Hours later, the bride-to-be is different. Irritation turns into possession, and plates fly like shurikens because the groom didn't dry the dishes.
Going to wash dishes here. Dry them.
While Hun returns to the scene, certain the turtles are dead, Mr. Sun reveals the curse. Only the one who put it on can take it off. The transformation accelerates. April turns into a giant winged demon and chaos hits the streets. In the climax, Casey takes a leap of faith and scales his colossal beloved. Mid-air, he rips off the ring, breaking the curse, and the two plummet, only to be caught by the brothers. Mr. Sun reclaims the cursed artifact and hands over a normal ring, offering advice that echoes Splinter's wisdom. The engagement is confirmed. The wedding is on, and this time, without the dark magic. With Donatello stuck in the lab sifting through data to rescue Splinter, the other 3 head out for a rooftop run and stumble onto a purple dragon heist. Something is different, high-tech weapons and gauntlets that turn Hun's fists into craters. Everyone falls into a hole that reveals the true target, an underground Foot Clan vault filled with restrained cyber ninjas. The dragons weren't stealing jewels, they were looting the Foot. The fight turns into a 3-way chaotic brawl. Then, the virtual world bleeds into the real one. The Cyber Shredder finds an exit and possesses Baxter Stockman's robotic body, gaining muscle and metal. From the lab, Donnie faces a definitive crossroads. Finish the download that could bring his father back, or abandon everything now to save his brothers from being destroyed by a possessed cyborg. Serling goes crazy with kindness, handing out tickets and gifts to empty the base. In secret, he has built a DIY time machine to go back to the future and escape the mess. The plan backfires. He shrinks in size. Frustrated, he gives the machine a kick and starts jumping through time. He nearly becomes a Pteranodon snack in the Jurassic, then falls into the sewers of the past, where he encounters the baby turtles. Unable to speak, he is adopted as the toy of the year until a young Splinter confiscates the robot. In his escape attempt, Serling ends up on the surface and is run over by Wendell, a former boy, now an elderly owner of an eccentric shop, who recognizes the magic toy that defined his childhood. Obsessed, Wendell decides to cut Serling open to understand his secret. The present-day turtles track their friend to the shop, but the old man unleashes an army of robotic toys and a giant mecha. Not even the current Splinter can hold the giant back. The solution comes from Serling himself. He sneaks in and rips out the giant's battery, neutralizing the threat.
Destroy. Hero. What happened?
Wendell, defeated, lets go of his obsession. Serling returns to the present and his normal size, carrying a new trauma, having been chewed on by baby turtles. In the heart of the digital world, the Cyber Shredder berates Khan for the delay in opening the portal to the real world, and reveals the perfect trap, a brainwashing program embedded in cyberspace to enslave the turtles. In the lair, Leo, Raph, Donnie, and Mikey decide to dive into the net to rescue Master Splinter's lost data, with April and Serling providing support, and Casey watching from the sidelines. Inside, they follow a signal that appears to be their sensei, but it's bait. A violent virus invades their systems, and April pulls the emergency cord, extracting the team. But something comes back wrong. The 4 emerge laggy and hostile. They attack Casey, recognizing no one, and vanish into the tunnels. They go straight to the Foot Clan HQ and present themselves to Khan, who quickly realizes the Shredder's brainwashing has conditioned them as loyal soldiers of evil. Khan tests his new troops by sending them to hijack a weapon shipment from the Purple Dragons. At the base, April finds the corrupted file, and unable to delete it, prepares a plan B, restoring their minds with an emotional memory backup. Impatient, Casey sets off alone to talk them back to reality. In the middle of a gang war, he tries to reach his friends and gets beaten by all four.
What are you doing, guys?
When Khan arrives to collect the loot, April and Sterling burst in an armored truck and fire a frequency that triggers deep memories. It's painful. Khan orders them to kill their allies, but the memories prevail. Raph remembers his partnership with Casey. Leo hears his master's advice. Mikey tastes pizza. The virus collapses. Back to themselves, they turn their blades against Khan. Outnumbered, the villain flees. At home, peace returns, with plenty of teasing. Raph's memory of hitting Casey is one that, according to them, is worth keeping on the hard drive. The Cyber Shredder prepares the final test for his upload to the real world, while the Turtles enjoy motorcycle races through the tunnels. The fun ends when Mikey falls into the sewer and is attacked by a strange mutant rat, a hybrid of matter and digital data. Mikey confirms the worst after seeing the news. The city is infested with cyber creatures, as if glitches have taken physical form. Donatello improvises blasters that delete the creatures, reverting them to data, but the enemy has already raised the stakes. He materializes a perfect copy of Khan in the real world, proving the portal works and preparing the next step, an indestructible physical body for himself. The team splits up. Leo and Raph face the Foot Clan in the streets, while Donnie and Mikey invade cyberspace to sabotage the big boss's download. There, a squirrel named George, not a cybernetic one, crosses their path, proof that the materialization process is nearly perfect. Donnie races against the clock to corrupt the Shredder's file. Just as the villain tries to step through the portal to crush Leo and Raph, the sabotage kicks in. His code becomes unstable. His newly materialized body begins to mutate, loses control, and explodes in the real world. Furious and defeated, the Shredder is forced to respawn in the digital world, still trapped in the cloud. To recover more of Splinter's fragments, the Turtles must enter Super Quest, an RPG that blends medieval fantasy with rigid server rules. With no tech working there, they have to play by the book. Mikey is a knight, Donnie a mage, Leo a paladin shapeshifter, and Raph a court jester. The mission is to win the key to a castle, but a rival player, Elfinator, who has a grudge against Mikey, is ahead of them. They reach a lake. While Elfinator flies over with magic wings, the group tries to cross by boat. The game master demands a token of affection. Raph tries to kiss the NPC and is punished by being turned into a toad, until Mikey pulls the right item from his inventory to clear the way. After stocking up at an item shop, they face a three-headed dragon. Donnie decodes the attack pattern, and they take down the boss, securing the key. However, their helper reveals himself to be the ultimate gamer, a living legend and server pro. In the final battle, the monster seems unbeatable until Elfinator whispers a tip. Only a level 50 White Lion can win. Raph takes on the role of the bard and distracts the enemy by singing, while the others buff Leo until he transforms into the beast and ends the fight. The reveal outside the game is a shock. The ultimate gamer is a little girl with glasses. Elfinator, defeated but honorable, hands over Splinter's data to Leo. Mikey tries to soften the blow by saying he isn't a bad person. Cut to the real world, where we discover Elfinator is actually Hun, leader of the Purple Dragons, addicted to online RPGs and dying of embarrassment when a henchman bursts into his room. April's voice breaks through Donatello's monitor in a panic. The equipment keeping them in cyberspace is about to fry. They run, leap back, and for a moment, New York seems to welcome them, but the city is broken into fragments of logic. Buildings move on their own. Mikey tries to jump and nearly falls, saved by Raph with a fire hose. Purple dragons vanish into thin air mid-fight, until the impossible happens and Casey is deleted before their eyes. April rescues the team in the van, but she's acting strange, driving blindly and even speaking with Casey's voice before crashing into an invisible wall, and everything explodes. Leo connects the dots. None of this is real. They never left cyberspace. The Cyber Shredder imprisoned them in a simulation adaptation to convince them to open a real portal. Realizing the trick, the three manifest their cyber armor. The villain appears, molding Manhattan at will, but now conscious. They ignore his rules and break the illusion by force. They arrive in the virtual world just in time to save Donnie, who is nearly toasted mid-download. Before the portal closes, however, a cyber roach sucks up some residual energy, enough to give the Shredder a chance to complete his exit on the next attempt. The cyber Shredder brings terror to the streets, hunting the purple dragons until only Hun is left, who gets beaten mercilessly. Next, he connects to the city's mainframe and becomes chaos incarnate. Traffic lights die, pileups multiply, and traffic freezes. While Dami and April dive into cyberspace for more of Splinter's data, Leo lectures Mikey on strategy versus improvisation, a lesson that will be put to the test quickly. The villain hacks the subway, and a runaway train threatens a tragedy. Leo tries to solve it with technique, but it's Mikey's improvisation that saves everyone at the last second. Back at the base, April and Donnie warn, the Shredder's virus is taking over everything. Pipes burst, fires spread, and the Foot Clan symbol takes over every screen. The only way out is to attack the source, the central mainframe building. The enemy turns hydrants and manholes into geysers that flip the turtle van. They invade through the sewers and run into Khan at the entrance. Raph and Casey hold off the henchmen while the rest head up. At the top of the power station, the brawl intensifies. The Shredder takes down almost everyone, leaving only one fighter standing, Michelangelo. Instead of refined technique, he bets on instinct and tricks the villain into cutting his own platform supports. The fall ends on high voltage generators, shock, explosion, and the enemy's robotic body is turned to scrap. The digital consciousness flees back to the internet, and Mikey proves to everyone that sometimes improvising is the best strategy. In 1968, the Green Sentinel faces the robot Mechazar in the skies over New York, vows victory, and is taken down by a beam. His magic cape detaches and lands in an alley, where a nerd finds it and vanishes with the treasure. In the present, Raph complains about the boredom without the Shredder to fight, while an overexcited Turtle Titan Mikey drags his brother to the Kana Caucus and tries to force him into a Turtle Boy costume. At the events, the villain Dr. Malignus hunts for the legendary cape and finds it in a display case belonging to the former nerd, now a collector. Without a word, he knocks out the security guard and steals the item. From above, Raph sees a chance for adrenaline and dives into combat, underestimating the enemy. Malignus gains powers, activates an armed drone, and teaches Raph a lesson. Mikey tries to save him, but the villain flees in a smoke cloud. The Justice Force arrives, and the fallen cape chooses Raph as its new host, boosting him into a muscular version of the Green Sentinel. At the Heroes HQ, Raph discovers super strength and flight. The veterans reveal the cape's origin, an alien gift to defend Earth. He accepts the mantle and taunts Mikey by offering him the sidekick position. While Malignus raises an army of robots, Raph lives the superhero dream, putting out fires and saving planes, with Mikey causing more trouble than help. Envy explodes in a warehouse, and in a tug of war, the cape tears in half. Each gets half the powers, and a duel of energy beams begins, until Malignus appears with the cape's kryptonite, an alien yellow thimble. In the final move, Raph has an epiphany. He throws his half of the cape to the villain, who catches it by reflex and becomes vulnerable to his own weapon. With the enemy defeated, Raph decides being a solo hero is too much work and gives up the powers. The ending reveals that the security guard, Al Gordon, was the original Green Sentinel. When he touches the cape, it repairs itself, and he returns to action alongside the Justice Force. Donatello achieves the impossible. Using the cyber portal, he brings Master Splinter back to a physical body. Slightly dazed, the Sensei returns just in time for the big day, the wedding of April O'Neil and Casey Jones. Everyone heads to the farmhouse, where an epic gathering of friends arrives to celebrate. But the Cyber Shredder left a tracker in Splinter's data and now knows exactly where to strike. When the Sensei goes to get the bride from the barn, he senses danger. Too late. The villain crashes the ceremony with an army of ninjas, and the party turns into a battlefield. This time, he comes programmed to absorb any energy attack. Donnie tries a decompiler being to erase him, but the enemy's shield blocks it. Then, Splinter changes the game. If technology and magic fail, it's time for physical combat. He surprises the villain in hand-to-hand combat. His sons join him, breaking the shield by sheer force and opening the window Donnie needed. Without protection, the decompiler hits its mark. The shredder dissolves into pixel dust. The barn collapses, but love remains strong. The altar is moved outside, and under the sunset, surrounded by friends from all dimensions, April and Casey say, "I do," closing the saga with an ending as heroic as it is romantic.